Hi, everybody.
Hi, folks.
Good day.
Good evening.
Is it?
It is indeed a very good day.
APG recording day is always a good day, isn't it? Well, not really.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
For Jeff, sometimes it's not.
No, it's fun. It's just all the crap afterwards. It's not fun. Okay, here's Radio Roger. Let's see how he sounds.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
Yep, good.
Too loud?
No?
No,
Good.
that's okay.
Hi,
Okay.
Corey Cave. Steffi's on her way home. There's been some pretty extreme weather around Charlotte, but she's en route. She says things seem to be improving, but she's worried when she gets home, will she have power or not? That's going to be the problem.
Who knows?
Rick thought he was going to be with us, but he's on his way to China, unfortunately for us.
China.
He's going to
Yeah.
China. Heading to China. Hi, Mazouz. Hi, Micah.
And I have an AI-driven robot in my back garden.
Yeah. Was the old mower still working, Nick?
No, that was the problem. We fired it up this season, and it started doing funny pirouettes, and you know,
boy.
it was looked like a ballet dancer.
Digging holes.
I think I could have fixed it by putting a new boundary wire in, but the boundary wire is such a pain in the backside to position and bury and wire up and etc.
So does the new one just use GPS or something, or
No, it's just a camera and
just a
AI.
camera? Okay.
So
We're talking about Nick's new robotic lawnmower. He's got a new robotic lawnmower.
it just it goes around and sort of works out for itself where the boundary is, and it can find its base station just from the camera. It knows, it kind of has some idea where that is.
But if you saw it going into a flower bed, do you have some way of saying to it, "Don't do that again"? Like, do you have any way of correcting it?
You can define areas with a magnetic boundary tape. So you can say, right, don't cross this tape.
Okay, got it.
I shoot you.
Neil knows what
you know.
happened, Nick. This is what happened. The old mower was working fine until we hit it with a bat.
Yeah. Actually, that's not.
Does
The
that
old
go
one
wrong?
was pretty good, and actually, the new one has some drawbacks that the old one didn't, because the old AI isn't as good and as accurate as getting right to the edge. It leaves a little bit of a gap.
Arnie's asking what brand is your new mower, Nick?
I have a Works. I have Works Landroid. Yeah,
Is it Works?
it is so
Yeah.
German. So German Works. WORX. Works or Works.
Racing. Come October, you can put a costume on. It makes a great ghost.
Oh
On
yeah, I
Halloween,
think
yeah.
that would be superb. It has. I bought a pair of headlights so it can mow at night, because of course the camera doesn't work in the dark, so you have to buy some headlights. And
Is it
now
quiet
you see
enough
these
that it wouldn't
ghostly.
wake the neighbors up?
Oh yeah. It's pretty. It has a whisper mode. I'm only joking. It is whisper quiet at the moment. The old one was as well when it started, and then towards the end it used to grind. You could hear it going around the gun. Then it would hit a stone and there'd be clatter, clatter, clatter.
As long as it doesn't hit a
Great sound.
hedgehog or something.
Well, the one thing I am interested is, does it avoid dog poo? Because if you put a dog toy or a little ball or something on the grass, it'll go, I'm not supposed to mow over that, so it'll go round it.
Yeah.
And the question I have is, have they
poo, yeah.
told the AI to avoid dog poo?
That's
Because I
interesting.
don't want it
That won't be
making a
good.
mess of the
Shredded
dog.
dog poo is
Yeah,
not
I
good.
know, that's just disgusting.
I know they need to mow my dog park where I take Poppy every day, and there's a couple of people that haven't picked up some piles. I'm thinking, oh boy, that mower is just going to go over that and go.
Yeah, well, occasionally that's why we never put the old one on a program, because you'd forget and that you hadn't cleared up, and then next thing you know you go, oh damn, the mower's off! Quick,
like a-
running! You'd be running around the garden with a shovel. trying to get the dog poo out
It's
the
like a
way
manure
before
spreader.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Isn't this a scintillating conversation,
It
everybody?
is.
It really is.
Well, I'm looking at this new one. It's pretty good. It's not cheap, but it looks pretty good. But what do you got to do when you're retired? But buy
I remember
toys
you
and
bought
play
the
with
old
them.
one when you were still flying, and you could,
Yeah.
it meant that Jilly didn't have to mow, that the thing could mow it while you were away
Exactly. Yes, I could set it off when I was on a trip.
and scare the bejesus out of her.
Yes. But the nice thing is the old one used to go over the dog toy. So if the dog left a fluffy toy out there, it would just go and make mincemeat of it. And the new one goes, oh, well, this looks like a nice fluffy toy. I think I'll go
I'll
around that.
avoid that.
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out a way to put this in the show in a very funny way, but I saw this video and it makes me laugh. Here, I'll share it with you all.
Oh,
Oh, this is the
this-
pigeon hanging on to the
Yeah.
wing.
I know. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Oh,
He's
as it
hunkering
started
down.
turning into the wind. I'll turn this way.
That is absolutely
I loved
brilliant. Yep.
Oh man.
And presumably, if it ended up in the jet efflux, it would come out of off the back toasted.
Ooh, toasted
Well, he
pigeon.
evacuated by sliding down the wing.
Oh, there you go. Way to go. All right.
It's the little things like that.
I
that
know.
Really bring me
I
joy.
know.
Did you like those dad jokes, those alien dad jokes I sent you?
Oh yeah,
last
I
night?
always enjoy
I know.
those.
Are we getting ready to go, guys? Or what?
I don't know. So what's we're just going to do in progress a thing again?
Yeah, I think so. Given what she's saying about the traffic and stuff, but
Okay.
the
Well,
lesser
she said she
known
was just coming
pigeon
over the
scale.
Lake Wiley Bridge, so that seems like it'd be pretty close.
Well, whatever you like. Just
No, we can start, I guess, or maybe we could just like do a quick. Could you ask her and say how long do you think it's going to be, or should we just start, or whatever?
I will
Please.
stand
ma'am.
by.
Standing
One
by.
button starts. Yeah, Neil. This thing you don't. There's no setting up. You just put the base station in your garden, and once you've got it hooked up to your Wi-Fi and got it updated, you just press the go button, and it works it all out for itself. It spent an awful lot of time down the bottom end of the garden though, where it's all pretty rubbishy. And I'm thinking, oh, why are you bothering down there, mate? That's just a load of garbage.
Apparently, your audio is low, according to a couple of our chat room aficionados. Jeff,
Just audio is
Jeff
less
is
than
less.
Nick's.
Okay.
You have
she's
lesser
about
audio.
15 minutes out, so she says it's up to you guys if you want to start or not.
Okay. Well, I guess we should, since Nick needs
Yeah.
to get to
Oh,
bed.
that wasn't a timely yawn. I promise you, that was just me yawning.
I think we'll start. I think we should start.
Okay, I still hang on. I need to adjust my audio apparently. Gain. Oh. Why was the gain all the way down like that? Okay, that should be better. Maybe too much. What does everybody think?
Sounds good to me, but it sounded good before.
Okay,
Steffi-
we'll see what
Steffi says
the,
she also wants to just take a quick trip down and look at her dock to make sure it hasn't been blown away
Okay.
when she gets home.
Oh, I'm just gonna. Okay, fine now. Thank you, Mina. Micah. You are now Mina.
Is that like a mina bird?
Yeah.
Micah.
Oh, I called this lady in the choir Nina, and you pronounce it Nina. Everybody just kind of looked at me like, no.
Well, that's very appropriate for the next plain tale.
Is it?
Yes, because this week I'm reliving part of the A to Z of aviation. Next week we've got 1 to 10 of aviation.
When did you?
One
Is
of
this
which.
word for word? You didn't do anything to change it. It was just a replay of the one that you did a while back.
The one we got.
How long
on-
ago was it that we did it?
I'm not sure. Quite a while ago.
Okay.
Although I did re-listen to it, and it's kind of in the modern format. So it kind of been A to Z, A to J, or whatever it was.
Yeah,
There's
A
when
to
you
J.
reckon that was.
What? A to J when you did
Yeah,
it?
when the first did it,
I'll
which showed
find
you.
out. Just one moment,
Ah,
please.
brilliant.
Stand
Just a moment,
by.
please. Yeah, hold the
Yeah,
line,
I
caller.
think I'm not up to date with that spreadsheet. I got to get going, but I won't do it while I'm having an
Let's
important.
see.
That's okay.
Camacho's not going to be here with us today, is he?
No, didn't sound like it.
And
No, he was off somewhere, wasn't he? Working.
do you have a 616 trivia?
No, I haven't. I forgot about that.
Oh
Let me see.
no.
616 Squadron.
It was first broadcast in APG 468, A to J.
All
And
right.
then 469 you did K to R, and 470 you did S to Z.
There you go. I did the whole alphabet. Silly
68,
me.
69, and 70.
Weird.
So whenever those were published, I don't know when that was.
Okay, how do I make this not so loud for myself?
Is that better, Tim? Sorry, my phone was ringing and I had to turn my mic down. So
If you could turn it up a little bit.
it's like at the max.
Okay, good. Okay, how do I do this? I need to hear myself less.
You're selfless? Yeah, you're a pretty selfless guy.
I don't know. Not according to some people.
Yeah, right.
Okay, wait. I need to turn that down, but I wouldn't
He
have
is
to turn
Neil.
everybody
Every
else
other
up.
show, usually we have one, but he's had
Check.
He's been traveling, you know. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, so he's got a brand new one in the hopper for the next show. We're doing a replay today.
Somebody complaining?
Yeah, that Neil Landwarn.
Neil Landwarm,
I'm gonna keep him out of the
quit your complaining.
chat room. Except he really is complimenting Nick that he's missing his plain tails. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll let it fly this time.
And Arnie's asking, are you doing any ham radio, Nick?
Not at the moment. No, I'm way too busy, I'm afraid, doing other stuff.
Oh, how did your bowls match go today?
No, I lost by one damn shot.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Oh.
know. Dreadful.
Oh, shoot.
Exactly.
Get it?
quit your
Shoot.
bitching. You're
Shot.
right. Quit your
Shoot.
bitching.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that will
Okay.
work. Let me get the recorder going.
That's good.
And then let's see.
1,000.
How's that?
Sounds okay to me.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
Yep.
Okay.
Hearing them all, yep.
Very good, I guess.
Have you got
Well,
your
go
countdown
ahead.
clock handy?
Oh, yeah, that's always a good thing to do. And I did remember to fix or set the recording for the backup recording in StreamYard,
Good. Yeah, that's good.
which is good. Okay,
I won't
go
be
to
on much
brand.
anyway, Tim, so don't worry about it too much.
What was that? What's
He's
he
saying I'm
complaining
quiet again, but I can't
about? Oh,
turn
yeah, that's
it up
better.
anymore.
Now yeah, that's good. Countdown. Okay. Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Certainly
here we
are.
go.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 616.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline
listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door, with your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on the 8th of May, 2024.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the airline pilot guy. Put your light and he's flying by. With the airline pilot guy.
In today's episode, a near collision on the ground in Florida.
You just landed on an inactive taxiway just over another aircraft.
And passengers watch in fear as a jet engine cowling is ripped off a Southwest flight. Also had more news, your feedback, and today's plane tale, the A to J of aviation. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 616 is ready for pushback.
Thanks, Radio Roger. He's an award-winning TV and radio reporter currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation. 1010 wins on 92.3 FM in
New York City.
Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, former U.S. Air Force pilot and retired captain for Delta Airlines. And joining me from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways, it's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff. Lovely to be back on the show again. Did you know 616 Squadron was the very first RAF squadron to fly jet fighters, the Gloucester Meteor Mark I, which it used to attack V-1 flying bombs. And indeed, one pilot tipped over a flying bomb with his wingtip when his cannons jammed.
Wow.
I did not know that.
That's quite
Thank
the
you.
story.
That is. Wow. Okay. Well, great to see you, sir. And also joining us, of course, from her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer. It's Liz Piper.
Hi, guys. Nice to see you both.
Great to have you. Great to see you all. And looking forward to another round of aviation news and feedback and all kinds of fun.
And a plane tale. Been
And
a
a
while.
plane tale.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know.
More importantly, I'm sending my wife to Canada tomorrow.
Yes.
Hooray!
Yay.
He's sending and I'm receiving. He's throwing and I'm catching. Yeah.
Let's talk about that in getting to know us. What do you think?
Okay.
Good idea.
And we
All
should
right.
be joined pretty soon by Dr. Steph. So
Yep.
while we're in
Have a good show,
progress.
guys.
Thanks, Liz.
Stand by for news.
We got to switch to the second layout, the group layout there. If you'll do that by pressing the one all the way to the left. Well, here, I'll do it. There we go. See that? And then when we add something, then it automatically does that. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. All right. Let's see here. Start with 1B. Yeah, that would be fun. Okay, that way I don't have to do a video or anything. All right, let's start off with this. It's a final report on an accident or incident that was an incident, I guess, that happened on October 23rd of last year. An Iran Airbus A300-600, registration Echo Papa India Bravo Alpha, performing flight 718 from Istanbul, Turkey to Tehran Imam Khomeini in Iran, was en route at flight level 330 near Tabriz, Iran, when the crew decided to divert to Tabriz, reporting smoke in the cockpit and cabin. The aircraft landed safely in Tabriz. Iran's CAO reported the same happened again on the onward flight to Tehran after a mechanic had released the aircraft. The occurrence was rated a serious incident and is being investigated by the CAO. Just recently, on April 14, 2024, the Aviation Herald received Iranian CAA/AAIB's final report into the occurrences, concluding the probable causes of the serious incidents were, it says the cause of incident was entering smoke into the hot air system of cabin due to oil leakage from the broken bearing manifold of the left engine. All right, so the sequence of events, I don't think we covered this one after it happened.
Don't recall it at all.
Yeah. So they're operating the flight from Istanbul with 211 passengers and 15 flight crew on board. Wow, that's a pretty high ratio, isn't it? Well, I guess not. To conduct a scheduled passenger flight to Tehran. According to the pilot and command's recorded statements, at 11:59 UTC before entering the Tehran FIR, and when flying at an altitude of 33,000 feet, a warning smoke was detected, I guess smoke warning, detected by the system in minimum equipment bay, and then by avionic smoke, lavatory smoke, and subsequently smoke was observed in the cockpit and the cabin. So cockpit crew used oxygen masks, and the pilot in command requested an emergency landing at Tabriz Airport as the alternate airport of the route. The aircraft made an emergency landing, and all passengers were disembarked to the transit hall. Then all related inspections and technical assessments were carried out by the onboard technical staff while the air conditioning system of the aircraft was evaluated at low engine RPM. Finally, due to the good cabin air quality and its normal conditions, aircraft was released to fly by the onboard authorized technical staff. They took off from Tabriz to Tehran looks like they lost some passengers, 185 passengers and 15 flight crew. Oh, I see, 26. Maybe the 26 passengers that disembarked were going there anyway. Or maybe they thought, I don't want to do that smoke thing again. We almost lost our lives. So, who knows what the actual thing is here. Anyway, so that second flight, about 11 minutes after takeoff, at an altitude of 23,000 feet, the aircraft experienced real smoke in the cabin and cockpit again. So they returned to Tabriz and successfully landed at 1842 UTC. The aircraft was grounded at the airport for further investigation. The AAIB analyzed, so they were talking about they were up at cruise altitude. Smoke was observed. We talked about that before. Equipment bay smoke, avionic smoke, and lavatory smoke faults. The pilot in command was in the co-pilot. Oh, the co-pilot had left the cockpit for a physiological break, likely. And another pilot was in the cockpit instead. At this moment, first the treble chime sound was heard. Minimum equipment bay smoke. Guidance was appeared on the ECAM. And then the cockpit filled with smoke. The PIC immediately switched on the seatbelt light, turned off the galley power system, put on his oxygen mask, and informed the chief purser of the matter. The first option then came to the pilot. The first option that came to the pilot in command's mind was landing at Urmia or Tabriz due to encountering a CB, the cumulonimbus cloud. The pilot in command had turned on the weather radar, so he turned it off as his first action to solve the problem with the idea that maybe the weather radar had been the cause of the smoke. And that would be, I think, a logical assumption, wouldn't it, Nick? Like you had just turned the weather radar on, and then all of a sudden you're starting to get smoke, thinking, oh,
yeah. If you can't identify physically where the smoke's coming from, which box, it's usually, if you just fired up a very high power system like a radar, that's a likely culprit. But actually, I don't think it was.
Wasn't.
So it was just a coincidence.
Let's see. The pilot in command called the chief purser to ask the co-pilot to return to his seat, then asked the co-pilot to make operative the sniffer fan. What's a sniffer fan?
Yeah, I don't know. I read that and I went, ooh, I wonder what the devil that is. I don't know whether it's an independent device that they can use to examine or test the air quality to see whether...
I was thinking that as well, but then I was also thinking we have something on all the airplanes that I've flown are called a Gasper fan, Gasper, which is the kind of the fan that drives the air through the overhead, the eyeball vents above all the passenger positions and also in the cockpit. And that's, again, maybe they're talking about that and they call it something different. I don't know.
I don't know. We would, yeah. I don't know. That's the answer. We couldn't independently change the feed to what we would call those punkaluvers. We couldn't turn those off or turn them on and do anything to them.
You couldn't even control the whole system? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and this is an Airbus, right? So, but it's an older Airbus. It's a A300, I think.
Yeah, there's quite a few differences between that and the aircraft that I flew or are flying now.
Okay. Okay, so they started running some checklists. Let's see. Thereupon, on the basis of the Flight Crew Techniques Manual, FCTM. Oh, that's interesting. The FCTM stood for Flight Crew Training Manual at Delta. Noting that the fact that smoke alerts have been appeared on the ECAM, which could be considered a sign of air conditioning smoke, the pilots referred to the Quick Reference Handbook, the QRH, applied the related instructions of dealing with the smoke so that the smoke disappeared. The flight crew not immediately clearly identified the source of the event, were not able to isolate it, and so they made the emergency landing at Tabriz. Let's see. Once the diversion was initiated, the flight crew entered the identification and isolation part of the smoke fumes procedure in order to identify the origin of the event. The identification was not undertaken by isolating different systems and assessing the smoke dissipation completely due to disappearance of the smoke. Afterwards, the PIC contacted Tehran Control Center and announced Mayday to be considered in priority, and finally aircraft landed safely. Okay, so the smoke generating, where all the possible smoke generating systems were checked. I didn't know we had smoke generating systems. I guess maybe it's one of those fancy airplanes
Turn off
that
all the
goes in,
smoke generators and see
like
if
the
the
red
smoke
arrows
goes away.
and the Thunderbirds and stuff. So maybe this is one of those airplanes that did
could
those
be.
demonstrations.
Wow.
Anyway, well, they checked all those smoke generating systems, and they did some troubleshooting, and no, they were not. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Anyway, so according to conversations between the pilots recorded on the CVR and on the basis of the investigations conducted on the data recorded on the FDR, the pilots' interviews, flight documents, and aircraft, the following findings were obtained. So considering that the event had occurred before entering Iran's flight, what does the FIR stand for? Flight Information Region, I think.
Yeah.
The pilots decided to land at the nearest suitable airport. Based on the Civil Aviation Authority's AirOps regulation and the operation manual of the airline, audio files of the CVR were not saved.
Oh.
The CVR was saved by the investigators of Aircraft Accident Investigation Board as soon as they reached the aircraft, but due to the duration of time since the emergency landing and as a result, the CVR had been overwritten. All cockpit voice and communications related to Istanbul-Tehran flight were unavailable. Okay, so somebody had asked on an earlier show, well, what difference does it make to increase the time of the cockpit voice recorder recording to 23 hours instead of the standard, 2 hour? And I guess that is changing. Anyway, the new airplanes are getting the longer ones. And I think that the latest legislation here in the U.S., the FAA reauthorization bill, stipulates that new airplanes now have to have the 23 hour, I think, is that right? 23 hours, something like that. And that's for this reason, because, people forgot to pull the breaker on the CVR or whatever you do on
Yep.
on that particular Airbus to keep that data so that investigators can use it to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. So what else do we have to say here? Oh, anyway, so they landed, they diverted, they checked out everything. The engineers, checked all these. It has a list of things here that they checked. APU.
It was quite
engines, flight
exhaustive,
cars.
this
Yeah.
list, isn't it?
Very exhaustive. In fact, I think when I was reading it earlier in preparation, I fell asleep. That's what happened. I should not do that. So the mechanic evaluated the related systems, and let's see. Let's see. I have something highlighted here. After the instructor pilot of the ferry. Okay. So I guess they brought in an instructor pilot to come in after maintenance had done their troubleshooting and performed, or I guess they were going to fly the airplane back to Tehran on a ferry flight, maintenance ferry. They informed the engineering department of the airline that the smoke had disappeared by turning off the bleed. So I guess they also got some smoke. I think at taxiing out, I don't think they ever even took off. They ended up getting smoke in the airplane while they were taxiing out. And so they turned off the bleed one system, the engine bleed on the number one engine, and then everything stopped. So they thought something has to do with the bleed air system on the number one engine. And it turns out that a fracture was observed in the bearing manifold of the engine number one with part number whatever, which caused oil leakage into the hot air system entering into the cabin during aircraft's ascent and descent. Due to the high temperature of internal area of the number one engine, the leak oil turned into smoke and entered into the aircraft cabin air system. So there you go. That's what happened. I don't know. What's your analysis, Captain Nick?
Yeah,
What do you-
I mean, it's a difficult one. Finding the source of smoke, because there can be so many, and it can come through completely different systems. So it can come through something in the avionics bay, for example. A box of tricks down there gets hot and starts smouldering, and that gives it. It can come through leaks in oil. It can come through the APU. It can mix into the air conditioning system, and as such, it can be really hard to identify where it's coming from. And even though they did troubleshoot it quite extensively, they obviously found out that even with engine runs, they weren't able to get this oil leak to provide sufficient fumes to get it into the aircraft pneumatic system and then into the air conditioning system. So that only occurred when it was flying. Interestingly, they believed it was an air conditioning unit that was providing that smoke the first time, which is the sort of air cycle machine that they have that turns the very hot air coming out of the engine into nice, cool, air-conditioned air that is suitable to be fed into the cabin. But they can be prone to failure, and that can cause a lot of smoke to enter the cabin. So they thought it might be that, because when they turned off the pressurization system on the first flight, when they got down to a suitable level, they turned that off as part of their attempts to identify the source, and it all went away. So they went, it might be the packs that normally provide conditioned air that's causing it. And it wasn't that. It was just that it was associated with the number one engine. So when they turned off the air conditioning from that side, it stopped, and they thought it was the packs, but it wasn't. But so it's really hard, and you can actually have these recurrent oil leaks going on for ages, and of course we all know that oil is actually quite toxic, and you really don't want to be in an airplane that's having these recurrent oil leaks because the fumes get into the aircraft and it can do you no good at all. So, eventually they did find it, and it was an interesting bit of investigation by them. I'm sure we'll put all the data in the show notes, but it's if you're interested in this sort of thing, you're an engineer and you're thinking, oh, I'll do a bit of homework here. This is definitely one worth reading.
I guess it wasn't the packs directly, but I guess an associated system that runs the packs basically with the hot bleed air, and that wasn't even the bleed air system really. It was just the oil leaking onto hot everything, and it just got sucked into. It was very interesting to see exactly what caused this, and even though they did pretty extensive troubleshooting, you can see how that fact was missed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, looking at all the things they checked, even down to excessive use of dry ice by the caterers, because, they, if you don't get, some aircraft have proper refrigerators, but a lot of aircraft use just dry ice packs to keep food cool at the right temperature. And of course, that as it warms up, it smokes. It just releases carbon dioxide, and you get a white smoky vapor coming off it.
Makes for great witch's brew.
Yeah, exactly.
Halloween.
Exactly. So, I mean, they even checked for that when they were doing, the engineers were trying to suss out where this was coming from. So, big, long list of where they checked. But, of course, sadly, when they did the engine runs, they only did them idle, and that was insufficient speed on the engines to generate enough oil through this cracked manifold.
Okay. Our chat room has a few comments on this. All right. Arnie in Columbus, at Columbus Air Force Base. I remember the old TriStar flight, transoceanic, half full with smoke. Oh, yeah, that's right. They
which
were smoking
half was
cigarettes.
Yeah. Was it the economy half or the first class half?
The economy half. If there's smoke, I always check with Cheech and Chong first. That's Tim Van Ram. Yeah. Cheech and Chong. Yeah.
I don't know Cheech and Chong.
Oh, they're a comedic. How would you describe them? They were potheads. Yeah, they were in. Yeah, they did comedy, and it's the album that people my age, around my time frame, would listen to. Probably not supposed to listen to it. But we did because we thought it was awfully funny, and it was a lot of drug humor and that kind of thing. But
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, well, hey, I think I've just noticed somebody has joined us, and that somebody is at her lakeside studio in South. A doctor, skydiver, marathon runner, IPA connoisseur, and commercial multi-engine instrument-rated backstabbing jumper dumper. It is Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff and Captain Nick. It's good to see you guys. And Liz in the background.
Hi, Steph.
Hi.
Great to see you, too.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've actually done the spiel in the music.
I know.
for you.
Usually we just, whatever. It's not important. Moving on.
No, it's because
usually because I'm halfway, you're halfway through the show by the time I get here.
It just takes forever for me to find this page and get all the music set up and everything else.
True.
So anyway, so have you had a wonderful day so far, especially the weather there in your area?
The weather is beautiful. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's terrible.
I happen to have Ryan Hall, y'all, which is a YouTuber that is America's YouTube weatherman. And the last several weeks, we've been having all kinds of nasty tornadic and just bad weather all around. The last few days again have been filled with Ryan. Anytime I notice on my YouTube notifications that Ryan Hall is on live, I'm thinking,
something's going on.
I was listening to it, and then they started talking about North Carolina, and then they talked about Gastonia, and I went, wait a minute. I know that's one of those places that Dr. Steph works, right? In that area?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I asked, are you in Gastonia? And if not, I think you shouldn't be, or if you are, then I think you should not be.
Well, I was watching it, that storm that developed, quite a big cell moved out of the mountains and across some of the higher elevation areas and then down into the Piedmont area, and was just getting nastier and nastier looking on radar for, over about a 2-hour period while I was trying to finish up at work and get on the road. And I ended up being finished actually pretty early, but knew it was cutting it close potentially with how that storm was getting close to us. But I looked at the radar, I looked at how fast it was moving, I was done. I said, it's not even 4 o'clock yet. The traffic shouldn't be that bad. I can get south before this gets here, because I see the west to east track that it's on. But traffic was bad, actually. It was not good, even ahead of the storm. So I didn't quite get as far south as I wanted before it got here. And it was probably 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts and a lot of tree debris, some little pea-sized hail, rain coming down so hard in patches that you couldn't see. Lots of people's trash cans. It was trash day in Gastonia all over the road. Some minor flooding. It was not real pleasant. So
It was quite an adventure.
Yeah. A couple of big trees down and power lines down and all the traffic lights out. And so I just, kind of made my way slowly, went through smaller neighborhoods and things, just trying to keep heading like south. I didn't want to stay in the path of that storm because I was worried about what it was continuing to do. So
Did you, after everything settled down, did you happen to see any dead witches?
no, but I would not have been surprised.
Okay.
Thankfully, no houses fell out of the sky.
Good.
It wasn't quite that bad, but
And that's why you're
it
not
wasn't
in
it wasn't
Kansas
good
anyway.
either. But it wasn't good, but it wasn't that bad.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're glad that
I'm
you're
still
safe
trying
and sound.
still trying to figure out the 2 people I saw out on jet skis on the lake as I was crossing the bridge to come over here. I was like, and then there were people still just leisurely clearing their way off of the. They were still playing golf. They were making their way back to the clubhouse in their golf carts, just getting drenched in the rain. And there's all this lightning around, like tons and tons of lightning. I'm like, I would have made my way back to the clubhouse a lot sooner, I think. But
And they
just
were
me.
kind of oblivious to the fact that this nasty weather.
I was just thinking of
had
the scene in
tornadoes in
Caddyshack
it.
where he's going, I don't think the really heavy stuff's gonna start for a while yet. Is that what he says? Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're not one of those idiots out there, Steph.
No, I would have been smarter though if I had just gone to the parking deck of the hospital and waited for a while.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it was pretty fast moving.
it moved really fast, faster than I think I anticipated that it would. So, yeah.
Well, again, glad you're safe and sound. Glad you were able to join us. And we only covered one news item so far, so
I was listening. Yes.
that's good. I think that what we're going to do now is go back to that first item, which is GA related, not Georgia, but general aviation. And I think that's best. Pretty much all we have here is just a YouTube video, and I think it was from Bass Aviation. So I'm going to go ahead and add my keynote to the stage here, and then I'm going to click on this, and we're going to have a listen. Maybe. There we go. Bass Aviation, Real Aviation Communications. We use liveatc.net data. This is the 6th of April.
Good morning, Lakeland Ground Cup, November 686 at Hotel. Leaving the executive tees with X-ray to the south, and can we get an Alpha 3 intersection departure?
6A Hotel, Lakeland Ground, taxi runway 28 left at Alpha 3 via Alpha.
28 left, Alpha 3, 6 Hotel.
Okay, it's taxiing out. Heading to taxiway Alpha 3.
Hey, we have somebody landing on this taxiway.
Uh-oh. What?
6A Hotel, where are you at?
Oh. They went over. I'm on Alpha.
The taxiway.
Aircraft in the upwind. What is happening?
What is happening?
No answer was the
No.
reply.
I'm on Alpha 3 and they were landing on 28 right.
I haven't talked to a single person.
Areas, all
Oops,
aircraft.
I just messed up. I hit the bar here to pause it, and it advanced to another place in here. While I'm doing this, okay, so he said, somebody attempted to land on 28 right, and I'm looking at the airport depiction, the diagram. I'm
There's
going,
no 28 right.
well, there's a 28, but there's no 28 left and 28 right. But I think we're going to find out soon why they're referring to the runway and the taxiway as 28 left and 28 right. Okay, so hopefully I'm in the right place.
I'm on Alpha.
Okay.
Aircraft in the upwind.
What are you
is
doing?
happening?
What's happening? And no, nothing on the radio.
I'm on Alpha 3 and they were landing on 28 right.
I haven't talked to a single person. 6 Hotel. Well, hold on. Let me try and get their numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah, they came. They just flew right over the top of me.
Number 5141 Romeo, Lakeland Tower.
Lakeland Tower 514 Romeo. How do you hear?
Sir, 41 Romeo. I have you loud and clear. You just landed on an inactive taxiway just over another aircraft without talking to me. I need you to contact the tower as soon as able.
5141 Romeo. We're down. And we're following the instructions for the fly-in between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So don't talk to anybody.
No, the flying does not start till Monday at 7 o'clock.
Huh?
Monday at 7 o'clock. Well,
Big thinks bubble.
I got an email that said Saturday.
Either way, I need you to contact the tower as soon as able.
Well, I'm talking to the tower now.
Need you to call the tower.
Right, we'll call the tower on the ground. So you don't want us to land and taxi over to where we need to go.
You're landing here, then I need you to enter right down for only 28 left.
Right downwind from number 28 left, affirmative. And 514 Romeo is midfield downwind, 28 left.
Background on 4, did they touch down or just fly over?
On the ground, taken.
Op 4 Tower, did they touch down or did they just do a flyover on Alpha so whenever I reported up?
6A Hotel, did they touch the ground?
Honestly, I believe so. I don't really know.
4 Romeo, did you touch the ground?
Oh, negative. We waved off. We went around as soon as we saw someone on the runway, on the taxiway.
Roger. Ops, no, they didn't touch the ground.
All right, appreciate it. Let me know if you need anything from us.
Okay. I think they're going to play the ATIS.
4 Romeo's right base for runway 28 left.
4 Romeo, runway 28 left. Clear to land.
No, they
4 Romeo.
still flying. Okay, he lands.
4 Romeo, you can turn left on Foxtrot and the south side SNA movement.
28.
4 Romeo's left on Foxtrot.
Just make sure you're listening to the ATIS and stuff like that. The first thing on the ATIS on the NOTAM said, do not land runway 28 right.
Lakeland Airport, information X-ray, time 1050 Zulu, wind calm, visibility 10 miles, sky conditions clear. Temperature 13, dew point 12, altimeter 3004. Expect visual approach, landing and departing runway 28 left. Notice the airman, taxiway Alpha is now runway 28 right. I repeat, do not land runway 28 right. Runway 523 closed, runway 826 closed, warbird ramp closed, Bravo between Bravo 1 and Bravo 3 closed to aircraft with wingspan greater than 120 feet. All taxiways south of runway 1028 are non-movement areas. All aircraft departing from the south side, contact ground prior to taxi with intentions. Advise on initial contact, give information X-ray.
Okay. The end. Nobody was hurt in the filming of this video. However, it could have been much worse if those two airplanes had collided. Now I have to, I guess this is nitpicking. He said that the first thing on the ATIS was do not land on 28 right. It was not the first thing. It was about halfway through. He did mention on his ATIS recording that the 28 left and 28 right were going to be in use for I guess this is the Sun and Fun.
Must have been Sun and Fun. It's Lakeland.
Flying at Lakeland.
Which I have not been to Sun and Fun, but I'm sure like Oshkosh, it comes with its, list of instructions and directions. And
you can even see in this depiction like a green dot and an orange dot. So I guess they have kind of a setup similar to the runways in Oshkosh. But apparently there was some misunderstanding of the instructions of what you're supposed to do when you arrive here at Lakeland Airport. And I'm not sure if he just thought he read everything was in effect on Saturday or what, but that was the reason for the confusion, I guess. Let's see, Neil Landworm has a comment. It didn't sound like fun. I can't vouch for the Sun. Yeah.
Well, not for that guy, at least.
Sun and Fun hadn't started yet.
Yes.
That's why. It was the day before the official start of Sun and Fun on the 7th. This was on the 6th. So that's why they put that at the very beginning of this video. As I said, I was a little confused at first when I was watching this, thinking, well, why are they calling that taxiway 28 right? And I'm looking at the actual numbers on the runway here, and it just says 28, not 28 left. But now I get it. They kind of temporarily redesignate the runways and taxiways for this.
Although, I thought it was kind of implied that he wanted him to call the tower, not just continue talking to tower on the frequency. He was like, you need to contact tower. He's like, I'm talking to tower.
I was honestly thought, I really thought, well, you need to talk to the tower. Well, I am talking to the tower. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, well, I'm talking to the tower.
He said it with a tone of like,
call.
You're in trouble. You need to call the tower.
Yeah, he didn't say, oh, you need to write down this number. Then we'd all go, oh, I get it. Yeah, yes. We that kind of talk to the tower. Yeah. I don't know.
I just loved his accent. And he didn't really seem to be too fazed by it.
He was not flustered at all. He was like, oh, I just thought I was doing what I was supposed to. Okay, I'll just, make right traffic here. No problem.
I've got an email.
But so my question, I guess, is, well, I have a lot of questions, but the main one is the guy didn't seem to be monitoring any frequency when he came in. Was there?
Except that he was on the frequency.
He was eventually. I think finally when he said, what are you doing? Like, what is going on? What are you doing? But maybe there just wasn't a lot of traffic on that tower frequency. I forget now because I sometimes get confused by these things. At the very beginning when the guy was taxiing out, was that on ground frequency? And maybe he was running both ground and tower, and the guy coming in to the air show to land, maybe he was just listening to the tower frequency and didn't hear any communications at all. But that just seems odd. It seems to me that even if I'm going to an airport that has a big air show going on that next week, I would still have something on, and I would think it kind of odd that I'm not hearing anything at all. I would think.
Well, I'm assuming he was listening out on tower. But he seemed to indicate that he was following the instructions, which was not to make any calls.
Oh, okay. Well, that could be.
I would guess that there's still some sort of way that they, even if you're not making any calls like at Oshkosh, there's ways to be identified and told, given your landing clearance and other instructions. So presumably he didn't receive any instructions. He was just not talking to anyone. Not really listening. Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear people listening. I know, Steph, you've gone through the whole arrival procedure thing going into Whitman, AirVenture, Oshkosh. and many people that are listening to the show have. But I know there are a lot of people out there that go to Sun and Fun as well. And maybe you could send us some feedback in regarding, what the differences are. If there's this seems like it would be a very significant difference, the way the procedures are set up. I'm like you, Steph, it seems like
there still should be some way to get some sort of indication of a landing clearance, an acknowledgement that, yes, we know where you are and we know what you're doing and we expect you to do this. Right. Even if you're not saying anything back or reading back instructions, usually you're being spoken to.
Yeah. Yep. Well, they're very odd. Very odd. Well, maybe I'll just have to go to Sun and Fun next year and just check it out for myself.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I won't be flying in. I'll be driving in my house. Anyway. Yeah. All right. So we're going to go to C, which is from the Aviation Herald, and this is an update. Oh, I hope this is the last.
I think this is the last update. I don't think there's going to be any more to this.
We can probably forget about the most of it because we've read it so many times.
Yeah, just the highlighted stuff.
I'm not going to start. So on September 12th of last year.
No, it's a full rehash of everything.
No, I'm not doing that. Okay, just put the picture there. Okay, well, yeah, you have to be looking at the video to see the picture, but I'll probably put that in the chapter image as well. That airplane in the middle of a field, it's not supposed to be, is a A320-200 Ural Airlines Airbus, and they were supposed to land in Omsk, and they had an issue. And they thought that they retracted the landing gear, but they didn't, and they didn't know that they had not, and they decided they would go ahead and divert to Novosibirsk, and they ran some calculations, fuel calculations, supposedly, but that didn't really take into account the fact that the landing gear was still down and locked, and they had all the indications of that, but they didn't notice. And they finally realized, we're not going to make it, and they had to land in that field. Okay, so then I think at some point they thought they were going to go ahead and do whatever they needed to do to fly it off that field and use it again. And then, that kind of fell through. And so I guess the final update on this, on the 11th of April, of this year, the airline stated that they have given up all plans they've just thrown their hands up.
No more.
Give up.
All done.
To get the accident aircraft airborne again. Instead, the aircraft will be used for spare parts of other aircraft in their fleet and will be dismantled on the field. Two long-term managers of the airline, 31 and 24 years working for the airline, have been dismissed as a result of the accident. Well, yeah, maybe after their dismissal. Let's see. And a new report by Rosaviatia, due to deficiencies in ensuring flight safety, organizing flight work, and professional training of flight crew members at the airline, as the reasons for the lack of training of pilots to act in a complicated situation. The report also highlighted the unsatisfactory level of professional preparedness by the flight crew, like insufficient system knowledge and crew interaction,
yes.
As well.
What the undercarriage indications look like when the undercarriage is down.
Yeah, that's something they've added to the curriculum, I think, the syllabus. And let's see, crew interaction, we like to call that, CRM, I guess they didn't have that in the syllabus either. Let's see, as well as incorrect calculation of landing characteristics like required fuel. In other words, hey, when all of the things are sticking out, it burns a lot more fuel.
It's less aerodynamic? Is that what you're saying?
Less aerodynamic. The crew performance was disorganized and inconsistent. The crew did not detect the landing gear had not retracted, although the sensors were all indicating the gear was still fully extended. Crew did not consider to return to Omsk at all, although weather conditions and length of runway would have permitted a return. The unreasonable decision by the commander to divert to Novosibirsk did not take into account the landing gear positions and thus lacked 5.6 tons of fuel to reach Novosibirsk. That's a lot of fuel. In an interview with Rosaviatia, the commander stated that the airline had recommended to divert to an airfield with train maintenance available if a malfunction occurs. The closest such airfield to Omsk was Novosibirsk. The recommendation was removed by the airline following the accident. Well, I guess they were probably assuming that, these people are going to use their brains and go, well, I know that's the guidance, but can we actually make it to that airport with trained maintenance personnel? Oh my gosh.
We gave it our best, yeah.
Well, everybody lived through it, so you got to give them that.
And some of them have a very exciting story.
Yeah?
That's right.
I know. It's going to be something that we're going to have to bring up every once in a while, maybe every couple of years.
Yeah, I don't worry, Liz. I'm sure that something else will happen that will equally make us scratch our heads and wonder about the common sense of people and their abilities and judgment and decision making, and we will talk about that for years on end.
Oh, man. Okay. Moving on. All right. Let's add this to the stage and play this. It's a Southwest Airlines airplane, right engine.
Oh, there's
number
new
2.
flight control sticking up from the engine.
Yes,
there's another one.
It's waving at us.
Deploy the new flight controls.
It's like the engine itself is trying to help, like by mimicking a bird.
Some flapping,
up and down, flapping and up and down.
Oh, that was nice.
Oh God.
Yeah, wow. There's some panels that have detached. Oh, one just completely detached from the airplane. I just saw that fly off. And let's see. I guess we should read the narrative here from Paddle Your Own Canoe. Let's see. Well, first of all, Colonel Jeff said regarding this incident, he's a 737, and Colonel Jeff flew that for American Airlines. He said, what did not happen during the pre-flight was the pilot looking at the exterior did not genuflect deeply enough to see if the latches on the bottom of the engine were securely latched before takeoff. So passengers on a Southwest Airlines flight from Denver to Houston had a pretty hair-raising experience on Sunday morning when the engine cowling on the right-hand engine was torn off, prompting an emergency diversion back to Denver. They took off around 7:48 a.m. on Sunday, climbed to about 10,000 feet before the pilots diverted straight back to Denver International Airport, where the 8-year-old Boeing 737-800 landed safely. Dramatic video taken by stunned passengers inside the plane showed the engine cowling getting ripped apart and being torn off the plane as the aircraft touched down. Thankfully, there were no reports of injuries, and the plane was towed to the gate where the passengers were able to deplane as normal. Unsurprisingly, the FAA has confirmed that it will investigate. The engine cowling is secured shut using a clip so that it can be easily opened by engineers by a clip. Well, that's more like a latch system. Easily opened by engineers for routine inspections and maintenance. Although the cause of Sunday's accident has not been confirmed, engine cowling separations are a rare but not unheard of issue that affects both 737s and Airbus A320 series aircraft. It's because they both use the CFM 56, Captain Nick? Is that right?
I think that's an option, but I don't know if not all necessarily.
It seems like those are the ones that are always 56s. Yeah, it seems like the ones that happen that I recall have all been CFM 56s. The cause of is normally because an engineer has failed to secure the clip properly after opening the cover for routine maintenance. In fact,
it's a bit like lifting the front of the hood of your car, or the bonnet, as we would say here, and not latching it down again, and then being surprised when it rears up in front of you on the motorway and blocks your vision.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what's happening here. Of course, pilots are required to perform a walk around of the plane before departure to specifically look for abnormalities, but an unsecured cowling is not always easy to spot. What? You mean you actually have to stoop down and actually look at these things? Yeah. So, Nick, so you have a little anecdotal experience with this.
Yeah. Well, I had to dive into my phone and went back quite a few years, but we had a few of these on A320s, so it became a topic of discussion amongst the flight safety branch of our airline, and we were all cautioned to make absolutely certain that all the engine cowling latches were secured correctly. BA, I think, lost a bunch of cowlings on. They had 2 aircraft this happened to. So yeah, mind you, if you're doing a walk around properly, it's actually part of it's actually there written in the walk around checks that you had to check the engine latches. Engine cowling latches. So anyway, I did this walk around right in the middle of all this, and when lo and behold, there was a latch undone. So I took a picture of it, and then I managed to dig it out from my phone, and I thought you'd be interested to see it. So that's what happens. We're looking at now the video again when these cowlings break free. But Liz, did you have that still shot that I can? There's a couple there, a couple of views of it. Okay, so this is underneath the inboard engine of an A340, and it's about the similar height to that of an A330 engine. So you can see there are 1, 2, 3 latches in a row, and the middle one has sprung. So I'm pretty certain there is a magnetic indicator. That was a close-up I took. There's a magnetic indicator, a pin, which also appears when the latches aren't all done. But it's one of these weird things. So it's a pin on a magnet, and because it's on a magnet, every now and again it falls free of the arm that's on the inside of the cowling and drops down. So the engineers often see it when it's giving a false indication because it's magnetically held and it's just fallen off the magnet. So they got used to not trusting it. So even though that magnetic indicator was showing there was a latch undone, the engineer had missed this one. And what was important for me was there in the 700, because the new procedures were being meticulous about logging, the engineers logging when they'd access the cowlings, and so they had to fill out an entry in the tech log, and then when they secured them afterwards, they had to sign that off, indicating that they had checked and double checked that it was secure. And sadly, this hadn't happened. So I just showed that to the engineer, and he went white, because of course he's documented as being the guy that was responsible for this, and I didn't take it any further at all. I'm sure he was very conscientious from there on, but that was all it took as far as I was concerned to put that problem to bed. But it was an interesting one, despite all the furor there was about making sure these damn latches were all done up. It was still possible for people to make a mistake.
Well, you trapped the error, and the system is set up so that doing a walk around, an exterior inspection, you would catch this as you did. So you didn't find out when you were in the air and pieces of the cowling flying up and off the aircraft. How you said that's a 340? Is that the 300?
Yeah, I think it was. So it probably was a CFM engine.
Okay.
I was trying to work out.
Is it as close to the ground as like the 737 Cowling? Because those are
No,
really
I would have
close
thought
to
the 737 would have been even closer, but
Yeah.
not significantly closer because, otherwise you start banging the engines. If you get a bit of, wing drop on landing, you bang them on the ground. So they've got to have a certain amount of clearance. But no,
Okay.
you had to get down on your knees to look under
Okay.
the engine to see them.
Okay. Ludger says the latest Neos have now have switches to monitor the latches. Of course, you're but I guess it's possible that the switch may be malfunctioning. Probably not very common, but you still got to look, right? It's just another stopgap, I guess.
Belt and braces. And if enough people look, then one of you is going to spot them when they're not.
Tim W. in our live audience said, I'd be concerned about debris possibly wrecking the rear flight controls.
Oh, that is a big concern. Yeah, when they come off, they can whack the tailplane and couldn't cause damage back there. So not good.
Not good at all. And in fact, we suspect that that might have been what took down a Mooney that we talked about on the last episode. Thinking that the cargo door may have flown off and jammed in the flight controls on the tail of the airplane, and they lost control. Possibly, I don't know. We're just speculating on that. Okay. Anything else to say? Everybody out there flying airplanes that require you to get down on your knees to check the latches, just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do all the checks you're
part of your
supposed to do.
job.
They're there for a reason.
No whinging that it's cold and wet. Just get on and do
I
it.
don't want to mess up my pants and I have to buy new pants. All right.
Right. Easier buying new pants than it is getting a new job.
That's true. Well, at the time, you don't really think
or
it
a
completely through.
a less embarrassing reason to have to buy new pants than when you soil them later on when you have something really bad going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
True. All right. Our last news item is from simpleflying.com. And here's the headline. Ouch. Austrian Airlines Airbus A320neo stabilizer breaks off after hitting a jet bridge in Vienna. According to John Ostrauer on X, you have to really try and then keep trying to unintentionally total a commercial airplane like this. Depending on or wouldn't that be intentional if you're really trying to do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Depending on the severity, ground damage incidents can cost airlines as much as $100,000. Summary: an Austrian Airlines A320 suffered damage after colliding with ground service equipment. The incident involved the plane stabilizer being ripped off. It's not a misprint. The stabilizer was completely ripped off and its wing aileron crushed. Ground damage from mistakes during towing and pushing back operations can be costly. Yeah, we get that. And I was thinking, how in the world could this have happened? And it's been a while since I've read this, but there was something interesting that I thought I read about. Oh, it was the last bit of news information or the last source from aviationsafety.net in their narrative. The aircraft had arrived as flight 456 from London Heathrow at gate F11 at 2045 UTC. Photos from the scene show the accident took place near gate F33. The airline reported that no passengers or crew were on board during the mishap. The accident may have happened as follows. The aircraft was moved to the outer row stand of parking after arrival, but the aircraft's brakes were not applied and wheel chocks were not put on the main wheels, after which the aircraft independently took off on the platform and collided with the passenger bridge and the light pole, with the consequences as shown in the pictures. So, immediately when I saw this, I'm thinking, well, somebody was like towing or the airplane and, just wasn't looking. But now that makes more sense, that they just put it in another stand area. And I guess, what kind of airplane is this? Is it a 350?
Is it 320?
Okay.
Neo.
So I think a lot of airplanes, if you turn off the hydraulic systems, and you're not going to have. Eventually, that all bleeds off, right? The pressure bleeds off, and the brakes are no longer applied. And if it's not perfectly flat, or there's there's a kind of a strong wind, and you don't have the aircraft chalked to keep the airplane from moving, that this could happen. I don't know.
The aircraft will independently take off in that case. As they said
I thought that was an interesting term or use of words for it. It just
for an airplane
on its own, it just took off.
Well, it sounds like they didn't leave the brakes on, and so it could have been a depleted hydraulic reservoir, accumulator that normally provides pressure. So even if you put the brakes on, that pressure will bleed away. Could have bled away completely, and no chock. But no chocks is just such a basic, fundamental error to make. Everyone chocks an aeroplane, for heaven's sake. Otherwise, it will run away.
Yeah. Reminds me of I flew with this captain that was relating a story about a 727. I think it was at Billings. Billings Airport is built on. Have you been there, Steph?
I have been there, actually. That's the only place I've ever been to in Montana.
Okay. And so do you remember that
Yes.
the airport is built on top of a bluff, I guess?
Yes. Yeah.
Or
kind
it's
of.
almost like a chopped off mountain. It's like a very high spot, like a mesa or something. Yeah, I guess. And it's not perfectly level. And the flight came in, and then everybody deplaned, and then they pushed it. They towed it back to an area on the edge of the ramp. And the crew did all their shutdown checks and all that kind of stuff. And I guess the airplane wasn't chalked. And the parking brake was set. But again, it's an old airplane. And after a while, the hydraulic system just goes and the accumulators just kind of bleed. And they turned around and the airplane was like rolling. And to go,
oh no, there's an edge.
Run back toward the airplane, and then like at the very back of the airplane where the air stairs are still, down, and they like run up the back of the airplane and ran all the way to the front part of the aircraft and pulled there's a pneumatic emergency braking system, a handle basically you can, I think, turn and pull that applies the brakes using air pressure. Yeah. But anyway, I
sent you, I don't know if you're able to pull it up. I sent you a picture just now, Jeff, of what the terrain around Billings looks like. If people aren't familiar.
I'll be okay till after the plane time.
Let me see here. Yeah.
I just transmitted that. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
It's fine. I heard it twice.
I can get rid of it in post.
Sorry, I was talking to Jeff about. I sent him a picture of what the terrain around Billings looks like. It's not the airport exactly, but you kind of get the idea of these like little plateaus and ridges. And I think that's correct that the airport's built kind of on one of those.
Well, I remember clearly that it was up on this
Billings.
Yeah, this plateau. Here we go. Where are you?
I'm sure I took that picture like on approach into the.
I have to do this. Open with preview. Okay. And now I can share the screen. And I wish it was an easier way to do this, but we get it done. There we go. Is it being shared? Somebody click on it. There we go.
There it is. Oh.
Okay.
So sorry, not the greatest quality photo, but you kind of get the idea. You can see where it's like really flat on the top of those. So you have all those little ridges, but then it's kind of a flat plateau.
Yeah.
On top of that. So.
And they use one of those plateaus to build the airport. At Billings.
It's pretty out there.
But. That has nothing to do with this last.
Also, I will say, just because we brought up Billings and the airport there, if you're ever at the Billings airport, there is a county museum like right across the street. It's the Yellowstone County Museum. Free to go in, donations, I think. One of the more random and interesting places I've been into, just spur of the moment, no planning. So if you ever find yourself there with time, check it out.
Okay. Well, I plan on visiting Billings in the future.
You don't need a lot of time, probably like 30 minutes, but it's there's some interesting stuff in their collection. I'll just say that.
Okay. Good. I plan on hopefully meeting up with a certain Father Corey Sticka, and somebody that I used to do a podcast with many, many years ago called Catholic Weekend. He is up in northern Montana, and I thought, hey, I can stop by. Craig Messerman, contact me. Maybe I can visit you as well. He's on the list. Okay. Never mind. Don't contact me. I'll contact you.
He's on the spreadsheet.
But on the way up to one of my adventures at the end of June, I'm heading up toward the Canadian Rockies for some camping. So anyway, there we go. Time to get to know us. So let me hit that little button there. And there's our little picture with all of our funny hats. And this is the time of the show where we get to learn what everybody's been up to between shows. And let's start with Captain Nick.
Caught
you off guard, didn't I?
I was there playing with my torch. It's the beginning of the bowl season, and I've played a few matches. It's been nice. Nice to be outdoors. Today was a lovely warm day. You've got 21 degrees, sunny, no wind. But sadly, we were bested over at Cove. There are a bunch of coves at Cove, and we lost by one shot. That was a shame. That was the national pairs, so two of us in a national competition. Anyway, needless to say, the season is getting underway. Great excitement. My old robotic lawnmower, who was called Blot, after quite a famous book and TV drama where Blot was the name of the gardener involved. There may be a few old gentlemen who remember that. Anyway, so we've now got Blot 2. Blot 2 has artificial intelligence as opposed to no intelligence at all. So
it's not just cleaning the same corner of the garden or mowing the same corner of the garden over and over and over again.
But I'm waiting to see how intelligent he's actually going to be. He finds his way around using a high-definition camera. And apparently he can tell the difference between grass and all the other rubbish that's out there. I'm curious to know whether he can tell the difference between grass and dog poo. That'll be a real test for him. Other than that, old chap, nothing much is happening except my wife's Volvo. The turbo's gone kaput.
Oh, you're talking about the car. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Hasn't your wife?
I don't think you should be sharing
one of those?
The pronunciation here is a little more distinct to avoid confusion, I think. Usually.
Exactly. Fair enough. So anyway, the turbocharger in her has failed. Anyway, so not working particularly well, which is a shame. And well, what else we got? I don't know. Life is just continuing on. It's nothing but fun in the Anderson household. Yes, my wife has decided she's going to leave and move to Canada, so she's off tomorrow. And Liz is her cohort in this, so that Liz and Julie will be getting together for the next week to have hooligan fun in Canada. They'll be, raising.
We're going to add Liz here to our
roof, painting
video.
the town red.
Yeah.
So I'm going to dump her at the airport tomorrow,
and I'm going to catch her at the other end.
8 or 9 hours later, she arrives in Toronto. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to having her come and visit. So we're going to, the only things we really have planned, we're going to go to Niagara Falls one day. She seems interested in going over to see the falls, so we'll drive over there.
I think it's worth seeing. If you haven't been. Sure.
Yep.
And,
sadly, she misunderstood. She thought you were taking her to Viagra Falls.
Good one, Jeff.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Yeah, a little disappointment there, but she'll get over it.
And we're going to the theater one night. We're going to see a rock musical.
Oh, great.
And based on Queen's music, which I know Jilly's very fond of.
I think I saw that in London.
Six. Six.
Oh, no.
It's about Henry
Different.
VIII's 6 wives.
Oh, okay. That's a different one. Okay.
And we're going to see some quilting shops that Jilly's interested in, and I don't know,
wow.
just do
Yeah.
a lot of hanging out. So
I
that'll be
think she's
good.
basically taking an empty suitcase with her.
Yes, she said
hoping
she'd
to
have a
fill
lot of
it
room.
while she's out there.
Yeah, well, there you go. We'll do some shopping, I'm
Exactly.
sure. Anyway, it'd be
I'm
great
sure
to
you'll
have her
have
here.
great fun.
Stay there, Liz.
So I'm home alone next week,
Uh-oh,
which means
that's
that
trouble.
I'll be down the local pub and the local curry house.
Yeah, you'll have the
table for
Madaban on
one,
speed
please.
dial.
Hey, that's my life.
I
Don't
quite
disparage.
understand, Jeff. I'll be imitating Jeff.
I'll be a class-
That's it.
Class B
That's it for
bachelor.
me. Yeah, not much else going on.
Okay. Liz,
Yes.
anything new in your life involving automobiles?
Yeah, I bought a new car. So,
Oh.
So yeah, it supposedly was built in Louisville last Tuesday and supposedly delivered to the dealer here on Monday, which kind of is amazing to me. But
Wow.
anyway, I don't have it yet. I don't know if I'm going to get it till after Jilly goes home, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah, another new red Escape. What can I say? I like my Ford Escape, so there
Nice.
you go.
And you said it's the last year they're making them all.
Yeah,
I
they're
think,
going
right?
out of production apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're going to focus on the Bronco, which is fine, but that's not for me. I wouldn't buy a Bronco, but anyway, so yeah, I'm getting a new car.
Excellent.
well,
Well, there you go. It'll if you get a new one, it'll last you for years. and
Well,
you
yeah,
won't
this will be my
need to
last car,
worry.
I'm sure, because I probably will stop driving when I'm around 80, which isn't that far off. So anyway,
Right.
so
Well,
but
never
Jeff
say
has been so patient with waiting for his RV, so I have nothing to complain about.
Gonna wait a week.
Yeah, waiting a week. Really.
I was saying, hey,
Well,
I've
good
waited
luck.
for more than 3 years. I can wait another week or two.
Exactly.
It's different for you, So,
Anyway. Okay, guys. Thanks. See you later.
all right. All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Have fun this
Bye.
weekend.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
will.
both of you, just make sure you don't clatter into something just as you're driving away from the dealership. Because, I mean, after.
All right. Steph.
Yeah. Not a ton. I participated in a local triathlon last weekend. Not anything for not it was a race, but I went with no intention of actually racing it. It was just for fun. And in fact, I forgot I signed up until I received the email about the reminder for packet pickup on the Friday before the race, which was on Saturday. So I said, oh, yeah, okay. Well, I was planning on doing some jumping, but the weather last weekend here was also terrible, so that did not happen at all. It also really wasn't ideal weather for a triathlon, especially not one that's on trails. The swim was fine. It was, I did the, so it was at the Whitewater Center here in Charlotte, which in addition to having all of the, whitewater training stuff, has an extensive network of mountain biking trails and running trails, and just an all around really neat place. So the course was going to be run on all of that property. So I signed up for the sprint version of their triathlon. They had a full version and a sprint version. The sprint version was 400 meter swim in the Catawba River, and then a 7-mile mountain bike ride, and then like a 3K trail run. I was like, yeah, that sounds fine, because a 14-mile mountain bike ride, which was what they were doing in the full, sounded like way too much for me. I don't even own a mountain bike. I had to borrow one. And seeing as how I forgot about it until the day before, it was a little bit of a scramble to find one. So the one I found wasn't really a great fit and was rather old, which was fine because I didn't want to take someone's fancy new mountain bike out on the trails because I'm not a good mountain biker. I also perhaps naively assumed that the sprint version of the triathlon would be on easier trails for the mountain bike, and it was not. The swim was fine. It was, flat river swim. The water was a little chilly. It was like 67, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. But it was wetsuit legal, so got to wear a wetsuit. They had a ridiculously long run back to transition. It was like a half a mile run from the river back to where the bikes were set up. So that was kind of funny. On a gravel path. So they're like, please make sure you bring an extra pair of shoes so you don't wreck your feet running back. Okay, noted. Then I jumped on the bike and I took off, and I rounded the first corner into the woods, and I went immediately, I have made a mistake here. This is very technical and very difficult looking and very wet and slippery from all the recent rain, and it's still kind of raining, and I don't want to hurt myself doing this. Like, I'm not so committed to it that I'm going to injure myself. I think people who are, quite proficient at mountain biking and had nice equipment were not overly daunted by the conditions, although everyone definitely agreed it was very slick. I saw a lot of wrecks, like a lot. But I kind of let everyone just go past me for a while, and then it was me and these two other ladies and one guy, and all of us were kind of thinking the same thing, like, this isn't really what we thought we were signing up for. So we did a lot of walking our bikes and just kind of like laughing about how far have we gone? We have no idea where we are. Are we close to the end? We don't know. We kind of surmised at one point that maybe we had 1.5 miles left of the mountain bike course. And then we got to this aid station and they're like, oh no, you have another 2 miles. But we thought we had 1.5 miles left, like 1.5 miles prior to that. So it was, yeah. And then it started pouring rain. Yeah. But fortunately, the last 2 miles were actually fairly level, wider tracks, not as dangerous in terms of slippery, exposed tree roots and rocks and things. So I did not fall off my bike, which was basically the only goal for the day for me at that point. I think I came in third to last, but that's totally fine. And it poured rain on the run too. It was pretty comical. So I don't know why I signed up for this stuff. But
we've all been wondering that.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have referred to it as comical, and I don't think I'd be laughing. It sounds pretty miserable to me.
There were a couple times I was definitely not laughing. It's like, I would like to quit this now. Unfortunately, I'm several miles off in the woods and I have no idea how to actually quit. Like, I don't know where to go from here. I don't think there's a better way out. I just have to keep going on the trail that I'm on.
Yikes.
So I'll stick to the road bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might have quit if I knew an easy way out on that one, but I didn't know where I was going. So just had to continue.
Well, you made it.
I made it. Yeah, that was most of my weekend. I actually went back to the Whitewater Center the next day, and the weather was improved, still quite cloudy, but had lunch with a friend, and my neighbors were also there having lunch, and we got to watch a little bit of, I guess they're starting to do some training for the Olympics for some of the kayak stuff, so that was interesting. And yeah, back to work.
All right. Work. Well, let's see. I think I talked about on the last show that I received word that my vehicle was going to be on its way.
RV.
Yeah, well, I was hoping that I'd be leaving like tomorrow or whatever to pick it up on Friday, but now I haven't heard anything in a few days, and so it may not be until sometime next week that I'm down there.
I'd just go down there with a tent and set it up on their doorstep.
Well, I could do that, but that might not be very comfortable. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. But when I do actually get down there, I was having some communication with Peter Tarantelli about the fact that I was going to be down there, and he mentioned that he lives just down the road a piece, like 35 miles down south of Lakeland. And I said, well, because he said he was interested in the rig and was hearing me talking about leisure travel vans, and he went to their website and was looking at it. And I said, well, hey, how would you like to see one in real life? I said, there's a possibility that, I'm going to be staying down there for a couple of days after I take delivery and before I start heading back up to Roswell. And I said, maybe we could do some kind of, meet up together. And then I'm thinking, hey, I know that there are some people down there in that area, the general Tampa Bay area, like Jay Rossignol and Sean McHale. They both were at the meetup that Brian and Micah had at the your pizza or something like that. Not your pizza place, or not your pizza place, or don't touch my pizza, it's not your place. something like that. I don't remember exactly, but they had fun with that. The name of the restaurant, and Jay and Sean were in attendance there, and we talked about that meetup. I think it was in November of last year. So, hey, Jay, Sean, if hopefully I'll remember to contact you directly. But if you're listening to the show and you happen to be down that way, like next week, maybe we can all get together, and anybody else that happens to be down there, get together somewhere in the general area and meet up for some food and beer and whatever. So anyway, follow us on, or follow me at Airline Pilot Guy on X, or APG Crew on X, or Airline Pilot Guy on Facebook. And hopefully I'll remember to use the new Where is Captain Jeff Twitter or X account, and that way people can kind of keep track of where I am and what my plans are in the next few days. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Let's see. We were wondering last week about what an S check was, and the only thing that we came up with was something between the T and the R checks, right? So Adrian Taylor wrote in and said, S check is probably service check, due roughly every 7 to 9 days. It's a very in-depth walk-around inspection with a few ops checks. Service the IDGs, which are the integrated drive generators, maybe a few lube points. They always typically include a check of all serviceable items like accumulators and dampeners. So that's what Adrian thinks. Thank you very much for that. And we just learned about an APG related meetup, not specifically, but a couple of people that are big in our APG community got together very recently for a little meetup, and they sent us some audio of said feedback. And so I'm going to go ahead and play that right now, as long as I can figure out where that is. Okay, I think it's right here. And then I have to share this again. Sorry. Where did it go? I think this is it. Yep. Okay. You might recognize these people. And let me start the audio.
Thanks, Jeff. So, last night, I don't know, around 8 o'clock, I get a text.
Let me try that again. So, one of those prominent members of our APG community is Micah. So, I'm going to throw it to you, Micah.
Thanks, Jeff. So, last night, I don't know, around 8 o'clock, I get a text. And it's from our good friend, Captain Stephen Ivey. And he says, guess what? Coming into Portland really late. What are you doing tomorrow morning? I said, well, I'm having breakfast with you. So here we are at Becky's Diner. And Jeff, I know you've been here before. We've never been here together, but it's my favorite breakfast place in Portland. I've been here with Tanya, been here with Captain Dana, been here with Captain Craig, and now I'm here with Captain Stephen. And Stephen, you're flying for Acme Charter now. And where did you come in from last night?
We came in from Teterboro, New Jersey last night. Don't want to offend anybody by calling it New York like I did one time. But yeah, I came in from Teterboro last night, and then got a long, fun-filled day planned for us. We're going down to Philadelphia, and then from Philadelphia we're going to Pittsburgh to Appleton, Wisconsin, and then going all the way from Appleton down to Stuart, Florida for about a 13-hour day of on-duty time and about 7 hours of flying.
That's a long, long day. But, you know, working for Charter, now this is what you're scheduled to do. How often is what you're scheduled doing, or how often does what your schedule say, have anything to do with what you actually fly?
It's about a 50-50 chance, and a lot of it's just got to do with what's going on with the company, and then, of course, where you're at and everything. There's some mornings where you wake up and what you had planned the day before is completely gone, and you're just sitting, and then there's other days where it gets shortened or it gets longer than what's planned. The charter world, it changes on a moment's notice, and I very could get to one of these destinations today and do something completely different than what was originally planned. It's just part of working in charter and fractional ownership.
So when that happens, how do you rework the schedule in terms of the flying? Because you set up everything else in terms of how you're planning your fuel and directions, don't you? Or are you given that?
Most of the time, they'll do the flight planning for us and everything. And usually when the changes happen, you're on the ground, so it's not that big of a deal. There's a couple times where I've actually been in the air, and either ATC will tell me or the company will call me, and they'll route us somewhere else. And then when that comes into play, you're looking at if you got enough fuel to go where they want you to go. But most of the time, changes happen on the ground, and it's really easy to make the changes, unless, of course, if you put on a lot of fuel for a long flight and you're only going somewhere really close by, then it sometimes becomes an issue.
So you've been with Acme Charter for a while now. What equipment have you been flying?
So, been here a little over 2 years now. I started on the Challenger 300 series, was a first officer on there, and then I took the upgrade to come over to the Phenom 300, and I've been on there for about a year and a half now. And then, of course, big differences between the two. Challenger has an APU. You can stand up in the cabin. It's got a galley with a microwave and everything. And then the Phenom has no APU, no thrust reversers. You can't stand up, and then it doesn't have a microwave either. So kind of different in the aspects of amenities and, of course, comfort for yourself and the passengers.
That's for sure, but how do you decide between being in the left seat as opposed to being on the nicer aircraft, I suppose?
Well, so that's something that's kind of different for my company. You don't necessarily sit in the left seat all the time. So for some reason, my company thinks it's a good idea to rotate seats. So whoever's flying is in the left seat. And then, sometimes you could be in the left seat flying, and other times you're monitoring in the right seat. So in that aspect, you kind of get the best of both worlds. But as far as taking an official upgrade, to the quote-unquote left seat, of course, money is always a great incentive, but it's also getting experience. I've learned a lot in the year that I've been as a captain, lots of things you don't think of as a first officer, and then just things that you just experience that you never thought would happen to you. For instance, getting to where you're going and there's no taxis or there's no car to get you to your hotel, so having to hitchhike, or then when you go to some places, having to call ahead to make sure they have fuel because you're going to the middle of nowhere in Wyoming. So just things you never would have thought about as a first officer, or actually as a charter pilot, because you just automatically assume, because you go to all these big places, that everyone has fuel, and sometimes that's not the case.
Now, changing seats sounds a bit unusual to me. How does that work in terms of your piloting skills? Because you don't have a chance to really get used to one seat or the other. You've got to be able to know the controls from both sides of the airplane.
Well, so we're trained at my company to know both seats. So what you do in the left seat, what you do in the right seat. A lot of places you stick to one side or the other. The big thing is remembering the flows, is particularly in my airplane, because on the right side there's no switches. Everything's on the left side. So on the left seat, it's a lot of work for that person. And then also, this isn't necessarily a big deal, but the sight picture and then your muscle memory with your hand movement can kind of mess with you going back and forth. If you're in the right seat, you're reaching with your left, so randomly your right hand will start reaching for stuff that's not there, or vice versa. We generally don't fly from the right seat very often. Me as the captain, sometimes I have to, because the wind or the conditions may prevent the FO from landing. So occasionally I'll do it then, and then I'm actually on my annual line check, so I've been doing stuff from the right seat just for getting checked out on, and it's usually just a landing and taking off from the right side, and they'll bless you to do it again for another year.
And what kind of schedule are you working for a charter in terms of, with the major airlines, you get to pick your routes, you get paid by the hour. and you know that you're going to be on, or you're bidding for routes. How does that work with a charter?
So for the charter world, mostly you are on a fixed, 7 to 7 or a 8 and 7 type schedule. So that means you'll work 7 days and have 7 off. Specific to my company, we're allowed to make a preference for what we prefer. So I generally like to work 6 days and 4 days off, and that's usually what I work. Some people like to work less. Some people like to work more. So specifically to my company, it's a great flexibility that we have. As far as pay goes, we're paid by the day. So you can fly one flight, and you're going to get paid the same as if you flew for 5. So, and then as far as picking your routes, you don't have a say in where you're going or anything like that. So if you don't like a certain airport, tough, you're going to go to it regardless.
So Acme Charter is really getting their money's worth out of you today.
Yeah, they're getting their money's worth out of me today and then some, I would say.
Well, Stephen, it is great to see you. I'm glad we could have breakfast together, but I hope sometime you get in here where we'll be able to have some IPAs together too. It's been a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to come back where we could actually enjoy the main beers, and it was great to see you today, Micah. Thanks for taking me out to breakfast.
Great to see you too, and Jeff, back to you in the studio.
Well, thank you very much, Micah. Great to hear from both you and Steve and Ivy there in Maine. That's one place that I have not. Well, I think I have been to Becky's, but it was on a layover years ago. I don't think I've had the pleasure to go to breakfast there with you, Micah, but we'll have to change that sometime in the future. Okay. We're going to go ahead and so anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for sending in that meetup audio and the picture. And if you are out there, as a reminder, that want to get together in an APG related meetup, please do, or not. Yeah. And send or record some audio and take some pictures and send it to us, and we'll be happy to talk about it on the show. All right, so before we go to the next segment, we're going to talk about the cover art from the last show. Oh, yeah, we haven't mentioned this subject. Go ahead, Liz. You can pop that up there. The cover art here from last week was beard, yay or nay? And so we sort of had a poll and voting kind of thing about whether or not I should grow a beard or not. And I was about 2 weeks in, and I was getting a little discouraged about the progress that my beard was making. And it was just making me look rattier and rattier, in my opinion. And it was getting scratchy. And I finally just lost patience. And actually, that night after we recorded the show last week, I shaved it all off. I just couldn't take it anymore. So I put it out of its misery, that poor beard. Still have the mustache though. I learned my lesson about that a few years back. So, yeah, I gave up. I'm a quitter, not like Steph. And I'm not talking about beards.
Not like Steph,
just competition.
Steph's moustache.
No,
You're talking about her moustache?
I knew when I said that.
That's a bit
wasn't going to come out
bit
the right
personal.
way. Yeah. But yeah, so tell us about. So I'm looking at this cover art, Nick, and there's a version of me without a beard, and there's a version of me with a beard, and I just can't help but when I see that beard that is depicted there,
full of
reminds me like
luxurious,
I'm an
isn't it?
Amish guy or maybe
You're just a man with a beard, Jeff, and it's a nice looking beard. I mean, it's full. There's no gaps. It's a good beard for a man of your age. But
well, I like your beard, but it's more closely cropped to your face than this beard.
Well,
kind of
I
like
tried
out
to
there.
actually have a beard that was come down to your belly button. But unfortunately, the AI creator that I was using, who was going to plaster this beard, and I think they've done a reasonable job, despite the fact that I highlighted an area that would have completely covered your tie. It only produced a moderately sized beard. So I personally think that Adobe need to work a little bit on their AI, because I'm not absolutely convinced. It wasn't really very good. Took a lot of efforts. I mean, I had to continually redo the generation to see whether it would produce a better one. But I still think that's, when I was going to do a big beard for fun, but I actually think that's quite a nice beard. It's a little full for some people's taste, but I think it enhances the shape of your face wonderfully. Yeah, well, people are just sticks in the mud, Liz. So the votes we got, generally speaking, on Facebook, you've got a much better balanced audience on Facebook, I think, because it was about a 50-50. Good break between those who liked it and those who didn't. And quite honestly, there was an awful lot of support from, obviously, beard wearers who thought it suited you down to the ground. And most of the ladies quite liked it, Jeff. So I think that's a good indication. However, there's a much less discerning audience on Instagram who almost universally decided that the clean-shaven Captain Jeff was their favourite. But there you go. It was worth a try, I think.
What do you think, Steph? What would your vote be?
My vote would be nay.
Yeah. I mean, if you saw
Yay,
that guy over there on the left
Well,
side.
but I also don't really know that that's exactly what I don't think your beard
I
would
don't
look
think
like that.
mine would look like that.
No, so we might have to give it a try anyway, so we can actually have a real comparison here.
I think that would be a good
We'll see.
idea. 3 months of beard growth.
Well, just wait until he gets in the RV and, just ditch your razor for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll
Leave
see.
your razor behind and go for a long drive.
Maybe I'll try again. I don't know.
He's going to show up for some of these mooch docking things, and people are going to be like, who are you?
That's right, yeah. This is
What did you do with
scruffy old
Captain
ragamuffin.
Jeff?
Exactly right.
Yeah, the river is down the road. There's an underpass, and there's a river, and that's where you should be, sir. Yeah.
By the way, I was quite amused when I pasted those two cockpits together. You've now got they've fire handles at the top. You've now got 4 fire handles.
Oh, well, look at that.
That's good, isn't it?
I think this is the infamous Boeing McDoug bus.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah.
Boeing, it is indeed.
Unusual.
By the way, the APG symbol. Did anyone see that? It forms the aeroplane on the artificial horizon, right in the center of the instrument panel there.
Okay, yeah, see that.
And did you find the show
I did
number?
No,
Okay,
where was that?
it's on the autopilot control panel. The very left-hand numbers are 615.
Ah.
And funnily enough, they were different on the square version. If you, I don't know where the square version comes up, but on the square version, I had to alter the proportions of the image so that they would fit.
Yeah.
And I put it on the piece of paper that's stuck there. And it's 615 backwards on the piece of paper that's just at the top of the instrument panel.
Oh, okay.
So if you're a devotee of that, depending on which version of this you looked at, then you'll be able to find it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Captain Nick, for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, let's talk quickly about the coffee fund. Nope.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh, yeah. The APG Coffee Fund. You can become part of that wonderful group of folks by heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. And we have a couple of different ways. Oh, the Coffee Fund is there to support us financially, by the way. And again, Coffee Fund is airlinepilotguy.com /coffee. And let's see, a couple different ways that you can, I'll talk about that in a second. To support us, a couple different ways to join the Coffee Fund. And one is the old-fashioned way, the old, what do they call, OG Coffee Fund Classic method. And didn't have anybody that used that this time around. But we do have one sort of new patron, Peter Tarantelli, one of those guys living down near Lakeland that I might see next week. He became a patron a couple of years back, stopped, and then has restarted his patronage, and that's perfectly fine. A lot of people do that. They join up, and then for whatever reason they stop, and then they come back. So thank you, Peter, for rejoining the patrons. And if you're interested again out there and want to make some financial donations to our show, please head over to airlinepilotguy.com, Virgule Coffee. You'll be glad you did, and we will too. Yeah, so Captain Nick sent me a video. This lady was talking about various, what would you call that, Nick? Typography settings, or I forgot what not really a font, but these things that we refer to, like, and you're going like, do you remember what I'm talking about? You're muted, Captain Nick.
All the strange squiggles and not like punctuation, but they're indicators. They're like
Special,
brackets and special characters. Yes.
Yeah, like I think the first one's like a dinkus. I think was like 3 asterisks in a row is called a dinkus. And the thing that people talk about as
what's an
a
ellipsis
pound sign
then?
or a hashtag is actually an octothorpe. And because it has 8 points on it around it's a serif maybe?
Is that the type of font? Serif?
Well, no.
No, that's...
serif are the little things on a font. Yeah, serif. Yeah,
I gotcha.
Like sometimes some fonts like Roman, has the little pieces on the
little squiggly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But and then sans serif is just basically block letters.
Without, yeah.
Right, without. But I forgot, whatever these things are called. But the interesting thing to me was the slash, and it can be either a / or a /, and that's actually called a virgule, Virgule. And I thought, oh, okay, next time I talk about the Coffee Fund, I'm going to have to remember to say airlinepilotguy.com, Virgule Coffee. And then I'm sure that everybody's going to go,
people are going to think it's a kind of coffee bean.
Have I ever mentioned?
I want some of those Virgule coffee beans.
They come from Canal Coffee in Charlotte.
Have I ever mentioned
coffee? Yes, indeed.
My pet peeve in regard to when you're saying a website address and you say so-and-so and so-and-so / blah, 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 blah. That's not a /
Many times.
That's a front. I know. I can't get it out of my system. I'm sorry. It's not a / Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So that's the Coffee Fund.
I'll just be here drinking my potable water.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. Did I tell you I've given up on that? I'm not even. Doesn't even bother me anymore. It's just I've like waved my white flag and said, okay, if everybody in the world wants to pronounce it improperly,
if you make a pot of coffee, do you have potable coffee?
Yeah, I guess in that case you do.
Yeah.
If it's a pot of coffee,
You have potted coffee.
Of coffee.
Coffee should be potable to be able to be put into a pot.
Anyway. It should be cuppable.
We've taken this way away from aviation things at this point.
Oh, I don't know. Pilots live on coffee.
Okay. Yes, we are. We're going to go ahead.
Then I'm going to go to bed.
We're going to do the plain tail segment before we do feedback, and that's so that Captain Nick can get off to bed because he was up very early this morning, and he's going to have to get up early again tomorrow morning. So he's 5 hours ahead of us, and so It stands to reason. So let's go ahead then and play this week's installment of it was kind of a replay or repeat of one that you did a few episodes back, 468 to be exact, and the title of said plain tale, The A to J of Aviation. Here we go.
The Old Pilot's Plain Tales. The A to J of Aviation. The language of aviation is treasured by those of us who use it, especially since it separates us from those poor earthbound souls who don't spend their lives with their eyes cast skywards, up to the heavens, muttering, "That sounds like an RB-211," or "No, that's not a North American BC-1, it's a Harvard." However, in the spirit of fairness, particularly to spouses who stand impatiently eyes rolling as we converse with our AvGeek friends about how pretty that wedge tail is, here are a few pointers to help you join in the conversation. A is for aircraft. It could easily have been for aileron, the control surface that moves an aircraft around the longitudinal axis, a direction that's usually referred to as rolling, and is a common but useless maneuver performed in movies as a way to avoid air-to-air missiles. It doesn't. You're just going to die whilst rolling as you proceed in much the same path as you did before. Bear in mind that as you roll, a gyroscopic force is also at play and suitably precessed through 90 degrees unless the mass of your aircraft is perfectly balanced around the rolling axis and you have strong directional stability. It's going to make the nose yaw. This divergence will eventually cause your aircraft to swap ends, usually with the same result, being hit by that missile. Ironic, isn't it? No, A is for aircraft, because no true professional called his aircraft a plane, airplane, aeroplane, and the like. America, I have learned, has somehow become an exception to this rule. It's acceptable to be more specific, such as airliner, fighter, biplane, amphibian, airship, glider, gyrocopter, and such, but in general, avoid anything that ends in plane, such as jet plane, warplane, light plane, the one exception being sailplane. B is for bag, in particular, a flight bag. Yes, I know it could be an F, but I'm writing this, not you. Pretty soon in your aviation career flying aircraft, you're going to want to look the part. This involves the complex process of acquiring a flight bag. Other professionals have tried to adopt this vital piece of luggage, travelling salesmen, doctors, international assassins, and the like, but it remains a possession of and within the purview of only pilots. Although younger and more hip professional aircrew might sometimes have adopted a more casual approach to this vital accoutrement for a professional pilot. Messenger bags and backpacks might give an air of nonchalance and indifference to a young first officer, but it does little to inspire confidence, and passengers are more likely to think that it would contain a bong than a CRP-5. Please see the letter C. Only a proper flight bag looks good being carried by a uniformed airline pilot. A flight bag must be sturdy, but be a bit battered, giving an air of long service. It is carried, not pulled, and it shows the result of a little loving care. It should, however, never look new. It opens at the top, giving easy access to the contents, but nowadays probably contains little more than aviator sunglasses, a water bottle, sandwich, torch, and the all-important iPad, which has replaced the heavy tomes of Jefferson approach plates it used to carry. Stickers on a flight bag are sometimes acceptable, but as one moves up in rank, they should be less obvious and more significant. like ones from an old but respected airline that has gone to the wall, and a discreet union that puts the fear of God into management. C is for CRP5. We all have one, but few can still remember how to do anything but the most simple conversions on it. To the uninitiated, the CRP5 is basically a circular slide rule, known in the States as a slipstick, which to us British is too similar to slapstick, a form of low comedy. The slide rule is a mechanical analog computer that can perform multiplication, division, roots, logarithms, trigonometry, and exponents. It resembles a ruler, which was found to be awkward to use in a cockpit, so a circular version was developed for pilots and navigators, etc. Our circular version makes up for the lack of scales a slide rule possesses by having a transparent rotating disc on the back which can be marked by pencil, and when used in conjunction with the sliding plate will calculate drift and ground speed, etc. It also has conversion windows for fuel weight, true airspeed, altitude corrections and such. If you have a metal E6B, known in the Royal Air Force as a Dalton Computer Dead Reckoning Mark IV and nicknamed the Dalton Confuser, then you get extra marks. Don't be put off by the fact that Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan had them. They are harder to use than an app on your phone, but don't need recharging. D is for drag. Going to an airport can be a real drag, particularly when you're in a hurry. Check-in, security, immigration, getting through the maze of shops, queuing at your gate are all a drag. This phenomena is so well known that if you go on the NASA website and look for the page listing the velocity effects on aerodynamic forces at the Glenn Research Center, you can read that D equals constant times V squared. So if you attempt to double your velocity, your drag will quadruple. There is also a drag effect when actually flying, unless you've managed to blag your way into first class, which is immune to drag because of the sophisticated drag reduction devices deployed in the bar there. In aviation, drag is a real thing. Trying to go fast means lots of drag, which continually fight your efforts. A great deal of drag comes from the effort of flying, and for generations, aircraft manufacturers and designers have employed ways to reduce it, but it never goes completely away. Often a drag reduction, like having a nice first class, is balanced by an increase in drag in economy, often measured by the level of screaming. E is for empennage. If a non-av geek drops this term into a conversation, it'll go quiet and heads will slowly turn, revealing slack-jawed and wide-eyed expressions. But if you're the aviation infant in this group, hold your nerve and confidently follow it up with something like, yes, it needed to be sizable because it used to suffer from Dutch roll at high level. As far as you know, a Dutch roll might be a type of crunchy bread, ubiquitous in San Francisco, made of tender white bread topped with a rice flour coating that bakes into an incredibly crisp and crackly topping. And indeed it is. In the world of aviation, however, it's often bandied about, but trying to get someone to explain it usually involves a lot of squirming and then a visit to the toilet until the conversation has moved on. The empennage of an aircraft is a generic term for the tail assembly that provides control and stability in flight. It consists of the fin and tail plane, or vertical and horizontal stabilators in the States, which steady the aircraft in the yawing and pitching axes. The fin supports the rudder, which yaws the aircraft, and the tailplane, the elevator, which pitches it. Dutch roll is a form of yaw-roll coupled instability that is common in swept-wing aircraft with weak directional stability and strong lateral stability. disturbed in yaw, if slow to straighten, the aircraft will respond with the advancing wing rolling upwards. This increase in lift causes a corresponding increase in drag that now yaws the aircraft in the other direction, and the opposite effect occurs. The full cycle takes 4 to 6 seconds to complete, and if not corrected, it can amplify with each cycle, leading to disaster. A Boeing 707 test pilot once turned off the yaw dampers on an acceptance flight, and the handling pilot entered a Dutch roll so severe that it tore 3 of the engines clean off the wing. F is for flap. There are many kinds of flaps in aviation, the most common coming from the back whenever we have a little emergency. We all hope that the flight crew can keep it all together, but nowadays even that's not a sure bet. It's probably better if we consider the other kind, that is preceded by a descriptor like simple, split, slotted, double slotted, triple slotted, Fowler, and those are just a few of the rear ones. Flaps, be they at the front or the back, change the shape of the wing, allowing it to work better at lower speed, making it safer and easier to land. And it gives the pilot something to talk about on the way down. F also works for fuselage, the bit you sit in. Free stream, the air you don't influence by your passage, and F it, but mainly that's for the words used when the landing doesn't go quite as expected. F is also for flatus, something that is verboten in the cockpit. And follow me, 2 things that should be mutually exclusive. A follow me is a car driven by someone who knows their way around an airfield, providing assistance to those who don't. Try not to follow him back to his parking garage. G is for GR. It's a code found in terminal aviation forecasts and meteorological aerodrome reports, which can beat your aircraft into a pulp. There's many a pilot who wished they'd been a bit more circumspect and circumnavigated their way around the circumference of a cumulonimbus storm cloud, which typically holds or precipitates GR, rather than blundering their way through it. When GR hits, the noise can be so loud and dramatic that speech is often impossible. Windshields crack, radomes are crushed, wing and empennage leading edges are dented, and navigation lights smashed. Indeed, anything that even comes close to protruding into the slipstream is fair game for destruction. If you're lucky, your engines will have survived the encounter and you'll still be able to see through your pitted windshield, although your aerials might have been destroyed, preventing radio communications or an instrument landing. GR is a good reason for giving CBs and thunderstorms a wide berth, since large ones can be devastating. GR refers to hailstones greater than 5 millimeters, that's 1/4 of an inch. That's just the minimum size. And remember, NOAA has recorded a hailstone that fell in Vivian, South Dakota in 2010 that was 8 inches across, over 20 centimeters, and weighed nearly 2 pounds, or almost a kilo. GR can spoil your day. H is for hangar. This is the place to tell plain tales. It's where old pilots hang around, regaling anyone silly enough to listen with their stories of daring do, like the time they had nothing on the clock but the maker's name, and that was in Chinese. A hangar has a special smell, granted to it by generations of mechanics who have daubed its floor with a heady mixture of oil and aviation fuel, hydraulic fluid and dope, leather polish and paint fumes. It can be as quiet as a cathedral, and there is a compulsion to walk around gently in fear of waking the spirits of long-dead aviators. It should be made from corrugated iron sheets tacked together on an ancient wood frame, and should house a wonderful mix of bright, shiny, sleek, expensive aircraft with clear perspex and smooth, unblemished props. But in the darker corners there should be treasure. An old dusty relic of yesteryear, with half-flat tires, pistons sticking out of the cowling, a chipped wooden prop, oil-stained canvas, cables and turnbuckles in plain sight, and no radio, barely an instrument panel, but a wealth of memories written on its sagging wings. I is for incidence, particularly its angle. In aviation, it's something that every aircraft has. Some people refer to it as the mounting angle. Stop doing that. The angle of incidence is the angle between the chord line, the line between the leading and trailing edges of the wing, to the longitudinal axis of the fuselage. Put more plainly, it's how the wing is set or rigged when the aircraft is built. On a light aircraft, it's commonly around 6 degrees up, so that as you trundle down the runway, the wing is presented to the relative airflow at a positive angle of attack and, without too much assistance from the pilot, will start producing lift. For more complex aircraft, with advanced wing designs of variable symmetry, it's not so simple, as the chord line will vary all the way along the wing. An instance of variable incidence is rare, since most wings are securely bolted to the fuselage and will remain set for life, or a particularly bad landing. However, I'm sure the avgeeks out there will be already shouting, "Mignette pour de sel," and they would be right. The Flying Flea was an unusual little self-built biplane that employed a pair of staggered wings and no tailplane, so no elevators. Instead, the front wing was placed forward of the center of gravity so that an increase or decrease in lift would pitch the aircraft up and down. This change in lift was achieved by moving the front wing, altering its angle of incidence, thereby changing the angle of attack and the value of lift. It kind of worked, but then a lot of crashes meant that a lot of countries banned them. At the other end of the speed scale was the Vought F-8 Crusader. The Crusader was the last of the Navy's gunfighters, a supersonic maneuverable jet with 4 20mm Colt Mark 12 cannons as the primary weapons. It also carried sidewinders, which during the Vietnam War actually proved more successful at killing MiGs than the guns. What was novel about the Crusader was its ability to crank the leading edge of its wings up by 7 degrees to increase the angle of incidence for takeoff and landing. This gave an increase in lift whilst preventing an unacceptably high nose position to degrade the view out of the front windows. J is for jetway. J is also for jet bridge, jet walk, but not air gate, finger gangway, air dock, aero bridge, sky bridge, aero gangplank, air tube, passenger boarding bridge, or expedited suspended passenger entry system, even though these perform exactly the same function. They just don't begin with the letter J. They are all movable connectors which extend from an airport gate to an aircraft, allowing passengers to get on or off without being exposed to the weather. Although I've been to some airports where the conditions in the jetway are worse than outside. Anyone who has walked down one can recall the excitement of nearly getting to their shiny airliner, only to turn the corner and have their expectations shattered when faced with a huge queue of grumpy punters also waiting to get on. Airports usually charge more for using jetways, so if you've been bussed out to see a set of mobile stairs on your aircraft, you're flying with cheapskate airways. Jetways are even used by astronauts, but I bet they don't get soggy carpets and adverts for HSBC Bank on theirs.
Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me?
You're exactly right. I bet they are not exposed to all the marketing.
I'm sure they have a fine time of it. Now, I caught that one, but just by accident. I was looking through a few old ones and thought that would be a nice one to repeat. And in its wake, I have started the numeric version. So the next Plain Tale is already done, waiting to be played on the show, and it's the 1 to 10 of aviation. So, well, good question.
There's no limit, Liz, to how high
there is
it
no
can
limit
go.
to the numeric version.
Is it gonna this one? I'm reminded had a lot of interesting aeroplanes and airplanes.
Aircraft.
So no,
But just don't say aircrafts.
I don't
No, not
remember any
not aircraft. Just
No. There's a bunch
airplanes.
of,
Just planes.
airplanes.
Planes.
Or planes. Yeah.
Those lovely old planes. Yeah. You're a hurried man. You're a hurried man. I don't know why I listen to.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's a good place to live, actually. Yes, indeed.
All right. Anyway, and I'm glad I got a chance to listen to it again. And if you want to listen to any or all of Captain Nick's Plain Tales, you can actually subscribe just to a feed that has his Plain Tales in it. And information about that is on our website, airlinepilotguide.com. I forgot what is the website for or the page for that? Probably // Plain Tales, I guess.
That's
I don't
it.
know.
That's exactly what it is, Jeff.
Okay, perfect. Now, is it Plain Tales TALES or TAILS? Because a lot of people are confused about that. TA, like it's a tale that you tell.
Yeah, or you just go to the website and click on the menu. And
That's
then
probably the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And I was going to just remind everyone that, of course, I did finish the A to Z. So there are two more similar ones, which if you enjoy... Exactly. By the way, I divulged a few interesting facts about numbers at the beginning of the next Plain Tale, so I hope you enjoy it. If you're interested in that sort of thing, then I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, a little bit of numerology, yes.
Well,
we have the astrology version at a later date.
Astrology? No, but I do delve into the appearance of Naught because it was quite a rare animal in its early days. No one had a number 0. Not Europeans didn't have it till the 12th century.
Well,
in
in my mind,
0.
You'll always be number 1. Nick, so.
You'll always... Yeah, that's what I was going to
Surprised you used that finger for number 1.
I did. I used
absolutely
not that one. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm off.
I'm off.
All right.
And
have a good
I'll
night.
Be taking the wife to the airport in the morning. So good luck to her, and have a great time, Liz. Bye, everybody, and thanks.
Bye.
Lovely to see you too.
Bye, Nick.
Cheers, Jeff. Cheers, Jeff.
Bye. Cheers.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Okay. We'll start with number 4 then. Okay. Well, here come the bumper.
Captain, incoming message.
Let's do some feedback. This first one from Henrique Conero and Enrique. I like that the best. Hello, Jeff. Hope you and everyone is doing okay. You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Liz, you all right? Yeah. Thanks.
All good.
I'm fine. I'd like to compliment and add to Nick's comments regarding the autopilot requirement for flying on RVSM during the 737-800 Malaysia in episode 611. For flying on RVSM, an airspace between flight level 290 and flight level 410, you need to have the following equipment on board and working. 2 independent altimeters with an in-flight difference no more than 200 feet, a transponder in mode A, C, or S, an altitude deviation alert system, an automatic altitude hold system. In other words, an autopilot with altitude hold functionality. Per ICAO rules, if you lose one of these capabilities, you need to declare yourself negative RVSM and 1. Maintain 2,000 feet of vertical separation with other traffic, or number 2, exit the airspace and descend below flight level 290. Hope this can bring some knowledge to our future airline pilots and captains. Wishing you all the best. Thanks, Enrique Carniero. Yeah, and so it is. I've heard this happen where people have said negative RVSM, but because of the traffic situation out there, air traffic control en route center can sometimes still accommodate you at those higher in that RVSM airspace as long as they can, manage it so that you maintain that minimum 2,000 foot separation. But in general, once you tell them negative RVSM, then they'll tell you to descend to a lower altitude. Usually, what is it, up to flight? Usually they don't have you climb up to flight level 420. They usually tell you to descend because not a lot of airplanes can get up that high. And this RVSM is probably not something that you deal with very often, do you, Steph?
I don't deal with it at all.
Okay. All right, there you go. I had a feeling.
It's a big zero. Yep.
Big not.
Mm-hmm.
I am up there. Not. All right. We do have a video. Okay. This is from, okay, good. This next one is from Tom Seagraves, and he said, in episode 611, you all discussed GPS jamming and spoofing. Today, Flight Radar 24 put out a YouTube video of a cockpit ride along, today, which is not today, it was whenever he sent this, which was a couple of weeks ago. Flight Radar 24 put out a YouTube video of a cockpit ride-along on an SAS Airbus A350. Their flight was from Copenhagen to Bangkok, and they experienced GPS jamming. The pilots explained what was happening and how they deal with it. After hearing you all talk about it on episode 611, this gave me a much better understanding of the whole issue. Maybe other APG listeners would like to see this as well. Thanks again for your awesome podcast. Cheers from Missouri. Thank you, Tom. And so I'll play just a little snippet of it. It's quite a long video. It's good, and you should watch it, especially, as Tom says, to kind of get a better understanding of the practical implications of GPS spoofing and how it affects airline crews. So let's see if we'll add this to the stage. There we go. And then I'm going to hit return and see what happens.
Guys, Scandinavian 973. Could you just provide us with a time check? 0126, copy. Scandinavian 973, thanks.
0126.
Yeah, what's he saying?
As you can see now, the time is 1:30. So even the jamming now makes the clock go be wrong. Vi kan väl ändra den, va?
Ja, det checkar jag.
026. Ja, det är samma som är på iPaden. Ja. Ja, precis. Jag såg det också.
It's approach capability downgraded. Clear and auto flight.
Clear auto flight.
Nav Genesis 1 false once again. Clear nav.
Clear nav. Nu försvann den ena, eller försvann, kom tillbaka igen, men så remove status.
Removing status. Become action complete.
This is nav primary
I was
lost.
sitting here one day, and I saw the clock going backwards. And I can understand that it makes sense if you shoot a missile or kind of these drones, and it's whatever system they have for navigation, that you count on the time and the speed when to hit somewhere, and the clock is not right, then I can understand that you will miss your target. And now it's also for the passengers. They have probably lost their internet now due to that the fact that the system doesn't know where we are. And to be able to have that system in progress, you have to know, all the systems have to know where are we, which country are we flying over. I don't really know how they kind of adjust their jamming, but it's not like it's fixed positions where it starts, where it ends. Absolutely not. It's kind of floating from, and it difference every time.
All right. So that's, as I said, a little snippet of the video, which was very interesting. And you said, I queued it up at the point where they noticed that the time was different or something was wrong in their display.
He actually saw the time like going, like skipping ahead or going backwards or something. I think he said.
I think it must have been going backwards because they asked what the time was.
It was 1:30.
It was like 4 minutes ahead of what their airplane thought the time was. And that's one of the critical parameters when it comes to global positioning satellite systems. And as I said, even the in-flight internet would probably be confused by the time being off. And I've also heard, and maybe it was in this video or it was somewhere else, or they'll make the correction. They were showing how they manually corrected the time, and it also was displaying that the primary navigation was inoperative or unavailable. But where they made the time correct in their instrumentation, and then like not 30 seconds later or a minute later, they could just watch it start rapidly
creeping back
changing.
Again.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting how people are able to change that GPS signal somehow and spoof it or whatever. And it's a very interesting video, and encountering the spoofing and what countermeasures they took to ensure that they knew where they were going and where they were. And so obviously crews out there are well trained to handle the situation. I guess probably the most critical part of it is just being aware that you're in the situation where you're
catching it in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it goes on for too long and you haven't caught it, that could really be problematic.
Yeah. Right.
Now I'm wondering if all the times my in-flight Wi-Fi goes out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure it has nothing to do with GPS jamming. It's just
probably
it's first world technology problems.
Probably, yeah. Okay, let's move to the next one. Sam talks a little bit of the same subject. In episode 611, again, you had a detailed discussion of the GPS spoofing and jamming issue in the Middle East. I experienced some of this spoofing about 20 years ago when operating in Iraq. I think after 20 plus years, none of this is sensitive information. But if Nick Camacho feels it's too sensitive to discuss on a podcast, I understand if he edits this. Well, Nick Camacho doesn't edit any of this stuff, and he's not even here, so no worries.
We're just going to read it.
Yeah, it's also kind of long, so I understand if it's too boring. I'm sure it's not going to be boring. In fact, I know it isn't because I read it before, and I can't wait to read it again. Okay, going back to Sam's feedback. First, let me say that none of my flying in Iraq was, quote, heroic, unquote. I was based in Kuwait and only flew into Iraq once or twice a week. I flew a UH-60, and our mission was ash and trash in military parlance, carrying people and stuff. We avoided, I guess the ash is the people.
It's the people, yeah.
We avoided roads and built up areas or anywhere there might be fighting. So our missions were, to paraphrase a line from the movie Mr. Roberts, from tedium to boredom and back again, with an occasional side trip to monotony. Missions were often 9 hours of flight time, broken up every 2 to 3 hours with fuel stops, usually hot gas or being fueled with the engines turning. Somewhere in the middle, we would stop for lunch. We operated at 50 to 75 feet, wore flak vests with chicken plates on our chests, which are ceramic plates that could stop a 30 millimeter round, in theory. We didn't have air conditioning, and temperatures were up to 50 degrees Celsius. That's about 120 plus Fahrenheit. Yikes, that's hot. We would freeze
And
water
wearing
bottles.
all that stuff too.
I know.
Yeah.
We would freeze water bottles before missions and shove them down our flak vests. And then when they melted, pour them on our bodies. We usually flew with the doors off to get some airflow, but that meant getting coated with dust and sand every time we took off and landed. I was a unit instructor pilot. In my 40s, I learned very quickly that flying in these conditions every day, day after day, for a year was a, quote, young man's game. So, to the story of the spoofing. I was flying a mission into Iraq as the flight lead, so in charge of navigating. I was also training a new pilot straight out of flight school. The plan was for him to navigate us to Babylon, Iraq, where there was an Allied base. Then I would navigate back after lunch. As I wrote earlier, we avoided roads and built up areas until we had to come in and land, so there was very little to use for navigation, as our maps were just blobs of tan-colored paper. We did have the ASN.
All that Dead Reckoning and pilotage isn't so great when there's not a lot of features on the terrain.
That sand
like,
looks
where's
a
the
lot like that other
railroad
sand.
tracks that I'm supposed to see?
Yeah, exactly. We did have the ASN 128 Doppler GPS navigation system, so that was the primary means of navigation. This was hooked up to our HSI, horizontal situation indicator, and a nav needle that would point to our next waypoint. My first indication that something was wrong was when we flew over the town of Al-Halal, south of Babylon. We were supposed to approach Babylon from the east to avoid fighting in Al-Halal. Not Hillel, but Halah. But here we were, right over the town. Trail then came over the radio and said, "Break left, break left." I didn't see anything, but did so. We landed uneventfully. As we shut down, one of the pilots from the Trail aircraft was inspecting my tail of the aircraft, I think. He said he saw tracers that looked like they hit us, but we never saw anything, and there was no aircraft damage. I think if we were shot at, we were so low and fast that the rounds were well behind us. But from his angle, Trail thought they hit us. Over lunch, as a senior instructor pilot and flight lead, I became the target of teasing and jokes for getting momentarily misoriented. On the flight back, I was navigating, and at one point I noticed our nav needle on the HSI jump 15 degrees. There was not an error or GPS message. That's odd, I thought. I told the other pilot not to follow the needle, but to maintain his current heading. I went through the ASN 128, but all seemed normal. The lat long was correct. I asked Trail about it, and he saw the same thing. We reported it during our debrief to Rolling of Eyes. The assumption was that I got lost and was making up an excuse. But then the next day, the same thing happened to another crew in the same area. Again, they couldn't figure out what was going on. The GPS did not give them an error message, and they never got a GPS warning on the caution advisory panel. The next day, our CO decided to send some of the more experienced pilots and see if we could figure out what was going on. Again, I was to be flight lead. At about the same distance from Babylon, the same thing happened again. The nav needle jumped about 20 degrees. I started going through the GPS control head. Everything looked normal. So I started going through pages we didn't use often. One page was a declination page. We used this when the system only had Doppler navigation, but stopped using it when GPS was installed. I went to this page and found the issue. The declination in this area of Iraq is about east 5 degrees. I guess he's talking about magnetic variation.
I think that's what he's talking about, yeah.
Okay. It had been changed to west 30 degrees. A huge difference. Yeah, that's quite a difference. I changed it to east 5 degrees, and the navigation needle went back to where it should be. After about 30 seconds, the needle jumped again. I went back to the declination page, and it had once again changed to west 30 degrees. This time I changed it back and left the page up. About 30 seconds later, it changed back to 30 degrees. This was also why we never got an error message. The GPS didn't recognize that this was an error. Now that we knew what to look for, it was no longer a major issue, but an annoyance that would occasionally occur on missions when we got close to towns and cities in southern Iraq. It was still happening when we left, and on my last mission, when I flew with a unit replacing us to give them a local area orientation, it happened one last time for me. Sorry for the long and boring feedback. I don't think it was long. Well, it was long, but it wasn't boring, Sam. Again, I understand if Nick Camacho thinks this is too sensitive to discuss. And again, it doesn't matter because Nick Camacho is not here today. So, and that's, again, from Sam. And maybe this is what I was thinking about when, it kept, changing, after a certain amount of time, and they checked it again and it changed. Maybe that's what I was thinking about when I was discussing the last feedback. Yeah, it's quite crazy, isn't it? That they have the ability to do that kind of manipulation of signals.
We in this day and age, we trust and rely on, and not just in aviation, but just in our cars and everywhere in life. We trust our gadgets and our GPS devices and our sat navs to get us from point A to point B. So it's really disorienting when they don't function as they're supposed to because someone else is messing with it.
Yeah, Tim Van Ram in our audience says, I have run into the same issue of time and date being incorrect in vessel navigation. It gets a bit dicey when you don't trust the instruments. I guess he means like a water vessel navigation. Not a drinking vessel. That could be. Well, the bad thing about that is you can spill it all over your shirt if you have a.
Well, if you spill your drinking vessel all over your electronics, then you're going to have some navigation problems as well.
That's probably what he's talking about. Well, I know that Tim has an RV, and I thought maybe it had something to do with an RV vessel. I thought maybe that the V in RV stood for a recreational vessel.
Road vessel. Recreational
vessel. I like that, a road vessel.
I think you just need to attach some sheets to the top of it on a big pole, be like sailing here.
That's what I think I'll start referring to it as my road vessel. People will go, what? Yeah. Okay, we're going to skip 8 and go to 9 because, okay, yeah, I see why. Because, oh, wait, what about 7? We're skipping 7 too, right? That's the 340 because of Captain Nick, yeah. And 8 is what? Oh, yeah, that's Spitfires.
Camacho.
Yeah, that's a British thing, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So 9, I think that's a good call, Liz. Oh, you're so welcome. So we're going to continue now with some audio feedback from Sam in New Zealand. Not Dawson, a different Sam. Lots of Sams listen to this show, apparently. All right, here we go.
Kia ora, welcome aboard the Star Alliance APG flight, bound for New Zealand. I'm recording this in the cabin of the ATR during a short break just between our flights. My name is Sam, and I'm a flight attendant on the ATR and a PPL pilot. Me and my father have been listening to APG for the better part of 5 years. I've been in the industry for about 2 years, and my father has been airline and GA lamey for over 20 years. He's been lucky enough to spin spanners on quite a variety of aircraft over the years. I applaud the effort and time everyone with APG has put into these podcasts. They are fantastic week after week. I recommend APG to interested colleagues often for the content, news and views of the crew in APG, which have been invaluable for creating the person I've become. Frequently I've been faced with difficult situations during operations. Strangely, I almost hear Nick's narrative voice guiding me towards the most logical option. Inside my head? I believe this could be a side effect of elusive APG syndrome. Should I be concerned? My life has significantly changed in 2 years. My mentality of how to tackle daily problems has vastly changed thanks to the aviation lifestyle. I feel like it has made me a better person as a whole, capable of making clean, clear, concise actions, with decisions that come much more easily as experience grows. Aviation truly is a lifestyle for the bold and brave, a thing that everyone involved should be proud of. Do any of the APG panel remember what their lives were like before joining the industry. How does starting an aviation career affect your life as a whole? Make a trip down under sometime. Let us know if you are coming along. We'll say hi and we'll gladly hold a meet-up somewhere. Appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Sam. Yeah, I guess maybe he can send us information. We can add him to the RV, the
So when your road vessel becomes a
the
sea
road vessel.
vessel and you make it
Yeah.
across the Pacific,
Or
you
when I
can
ship it
reach-
down to
There you go.
New Zealand. Yeah, kind of like Kontiki. No. Okay. Anyway, the narrative that he wrote, the words, the email that he wrote to accompany the audio, and we really appreciate the audio. It's always nice to hear y'all's voices and accents and such. Kia ora?
Kia
everyone.
ora.
Kia ora. Hope you're all well. A quick little bit of feedback I've been planning to do for a while. Me and my father love the show. I really appreciate everything you all do. Thank you. Please feel free to contact us if the APG crew would like to come say hi sometime. We would happily help make something fun happen. Best wishes to all. Cheers, Sam. And I didn't read the part that I'm not supposed to read.
Good. Yes, yes. Omitted
I could
the
tell.
do not read this, please part.
I had this feeling that both Steph and Liz were going like are on pins.
We
and
were
needles.
about to.
Okay, is
Yes,
he
yes.
going to read that? Is he going to read that? No, I didn't read it.
We will congratulate you on. So do you remember what your life was like before
Oh.
aviation?
Well,
I feel like aviation's been part of your life for so long.
Aviation's been a part of my life since I was a teenager, working at fixed base operators and doing a little bit of flying here and there, but not much at all. And then, I graduating with a degree in aviation management. I was, so my college years, you're kind of focused on your college studies. And then 2 weeks after I graduated from college, I was in the Air Force going through officer training school and then pilot training. And then from that point on, flying was my life. And so I basically really don't remember much of anything else before, my life in aviation, honestly. How about you, Steph?
So I didn't get my private pilot certificate until I was 29.
Oh.
So I had a few years of not really being involved in aviation and doing other things professionally. Medicine, obviously.
Yeah.
And I know I've told the story before of how I got into flying, but I kind of, it was kind of a happy accident. Maybe I found it or it found me. I'm not sure. All the right ingredients came together at the right time. It wasn't really something that I set out to do. But the opportunity was there, and I'm really glad that I had reached a point in my life where I was just open to trying different things or things that I didn't know if I'd be interested in doing. I was excited about it, but I didn't think I'd ever do anything with it. I think I don't know that anything's really changed, but I'm just really glad that I'm a part of this community of aviation, or everything that aviation is, not just, the podcasting community, certainly, but, everyone that I've met in aviation along the way has, for the most part, just been wonderful people. So
yeah,
interesting people from different backgrounds, people from all around the world, local folks. It's awesome.
Did you find that it changed the way that you think about things, as he was kind of alluding to?
Yeah. I was thinking about that, and I don't know. I don't think so necessarily. We talked about that before too, where I think there's kind of some overlap in terms of just thought processes in medicine and aviation in terms of critical thinking skills. So I don't know that changed a whole lot. I think those were somewhat transferable skill sets, or parallel skill sets. But
Sure,
yeah, I don't know
same
that
characteristics, I think.
Yeah, a lot of parallels, I would say.
Mainly the characteristic that we think we're basically gods among men.
I mean, my ego just grew immensely.
when you're a doctor and a pilot, it's completely out of control.
Well, and you run marathons. You don't even know what to tell people first. You're like, they're just like, I'm a doctor, pilot, marathon runner.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Thank goodness I'm not a vegan CrossFitter, and my apologies to those communities. But you know how we all are. We love to just tell people what we do because we just assume everyone will be interested.
Yeah, Steph, you would be insufferable if you were a vegan, as well as all the other things. Corey Cave says, "Did the mustache grow when you got your wings?" When did my mustache actually start growing? I don't remember. I think I was about 2 or 3 when it started, and so I don't think I was flying. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm not a hairy person at all, as evidenced by the lack of a beard now. You know, the failed beard growing attempt. Yeah, maybe that was somewhat associated with. There were various phases of my aviation life, especially in the Air Force, where I did or did not have a mustache, and it was basically due to when I was an instructor pilot, the commanding officer and other higher ups frowned upon us having mustaches. So I had to toe the line. I felt the pressure to not have the mustache, but yeah, as soon as I left the Air Force, and of course, when I was in military airlift command, you know, mustache was, you know, everybody had a mustache. Yeah, girls too.
Builds character, I think,
it builds
or
character,
something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's my answer to you, Corey. Good to see you, and all of you in our live audience. It's great to see everybody there each and every week. All right, now number 10 is feedback from Joe. And I think I have something that I'm supposed to play here. A little bit of stormy weather out there. Hi, APG crew. I read this article about a Delta A321 being struck by lightning and could not help but laugh when I scrolled down to see a photo of a Delta 747 to round out the story. We're not surprised, though, are we? I really wish that journalists would realize that the first image they find during their Google search does not always depict the aircraft they mention in the article. It's not that they don't know, they just don't care.
I think they don't appreciate that the aircraft types are different, so they probably just search Delta in the Google search.
Delta, and it has wings.
Look at this beautiful airplane. Yeah,
and it says Delta on it. It's a big one. That's got it looks like it carries passengers. That's good. Anyways, please read the ridiculous article by the New York Post and enjoy the photo I've included of a beautiful 757. Laugh out loud. That's a beautiful picture of the 757. Yeah. Thanks so much,
RIP.
Joe.
225.
And that's kind of a sad picture, isn't it?
That is a sad picture.
The Mira.
Yeah. The Antonov 225.
Yeah, that was destroyed in the conflict. He said that he's been infected with the APG syndrome for several years.
Oh, that's Joe a couple in a row.
From Chicago. Yeah. Sorry, Joe. Okay. I think that maybe I'll read a little bit of it. I thought it was kind of interesting from the New York Post. A man who was allegedly aboard Delta Flight 1192 when it was struck by lightning claimed that all hell broke loose and that even the pilot was white as a ghost. He detailed the alleged in-flight fiasco in a post currently taking off on Reddit.
No pun intended.
Yeah. We basically had white knuckles until we touched down, the unidentified passenger wrote about the chaotic scene, which happened aboard the flight from New York City to Atlanta. The Airbus A321 had reportedly been struck by lightning. Thank you for putting the A321 picture up there, Liz. Had reportedly been struck by lightning while descending into the Georgia city. And then it talks about the fact that our airplanes are built to withstand severe weather conditions, but they declared an emergency anyway out of safety. Let's see. During our descent, around 12,000 feet, there was a huge boom and a white flash. Is this also in his little post here?
In the Reddit post?
Yeah.
No. Yes, it's the beginning of the post.
Okay, does he talk about the total silence from the cockpit? in
Yes.
that? Okay, so let me read this then. This is the Reddit post. Lightning hit our plane. My wife and I were on Delta 1192 from Kennedy to Atlanta just a little while ago. During our descent around 12,000 feet, there was a huge boom and a white flash, lots of screams, and then anxiety as total silence from cockpit and flight attendants. Engine pitch didn't change and descent rate seemed okay, so we basically had white knuckles until we touched down. At least one other passenger had an anxiety attack. Everyone was texting. Wi-Fi was still working. We elected to send "I love yous" to our kids, but didn't say more because it seemed like the plane was under control. We landed to a phalanx, thank you, of emergency vehicles and quickly came to a full stop. This guy's educated. It was only then that the pilot announced it was believed to be a lightning strike, and that we were to stay in our seats while the plane was inspected. Okay. After about 10 minutes, we were cleared to taxi to the gate. Oh, okay. So they were still not at the gate. They had just probably turned off in the taxiway and they inspected the airplane. Got it. Okay, about 15 minutes later, they had asked for medical personnel for someone at the back of the plane. So when we got to the gate, they asked us to remain seated while EMS came on board. They quickly escorted someone ambulatory off, and then people started deplaning. For the most part, people were trying to let people with tight connections go first. The pilot was in the cabin door and was white as a ghost. We were thanking him, but he looked rough. It was a few minutes later that I found the following link and realized that he had declared a full emergency. Now we were an hour out from our connecting flight and shaken, but okay. Mostly we're not trying to think about flying back through that same storm system. Okay, so the thing that got my attention here, and what is it, Steph? What is it that just bugs me about this?
Actually, I'm not sure what you're going to say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's the lack of communication from
Right.
the
Yes.
cockpit.
The total silence. Nothing. Hey,
You have to
understand
be
that these.
reassuring. I mean, yeah,
Sure.
you might be
We'd be dealing with
shaken.
a whole shaken. My only other, someone should have been able to say something before the time point when they actually did. There would have been a break in workload, I would think, to
Oh yeah,
make a quick announcement. PA.
yeah. It's all about priorities.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, as a retired airline captain, that one of the highest priorities is the communication between the people that are operating your flight and the people that are, passengers on your flight. And that just makes things so much worse when something like that happens and then nothing is said.
Mhm.
And then you start coming up with all these crazy ideas about things
Sure.
instead of reassurance to people. And that might be, I don't know if it is or not, the reason that somebody
Someone
had
had an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's the thing that just that's the reason, Liz, I wanted to read this, because it just makes me
Yep.
mad.
No, I was thinking that while you were reading it, and then it moved on from that part
Yeah.
to the point where I'd kind of forgotten about it. But
Yeah.
no, it's I tell people all the time, mostly my patients, there's a lot of anxiety about the unknown. So if you don't know what's going on, and you don't have a framework for it, it's not something that you're familiar with or that's routine for you.
Mhm.
Even if it's routine for the folks whose job it is to do that, there's probably someone else who's having a minor anxiety or a full-blown anxiety attack over not knowing what's going to come next. So a few words of reassurance can go a long way.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Number 11. Oh, AJ is not with us today. Okay. He's out there probably making a living, driving Porsches very fast. AJ writes in and says, "Greetings and salutations, APG crew. Hope all is well. Everyone made it back from their whirlwind tour of the South." Oh, he said, cue the, here we go. All right. I recently received an interesting document that details the time of useful consciousness during a takeoff briefing. I thought y'all might find it amusing. Wait, okay, during a useful consciousness during a takeoff briefing.
Yes.
Okay, so
So the normal charts are, at different altitudes, how much time of useful consciousness you have as that partial pressure of oxygen, your delta P, decreases. This one's a little different. So if you want to go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead, Steph.
Oh, you want me to read it? Okay.
Yeah.
So it says takeoff briefing time of useful consciousness. So there's one column that says time in brief, and then the other column is mental capacity. So for 0 to 15 seconds, mental capacity is fully engaged. 16 to 30 seconds, sound is heard, but words are mostly undecipherable. If we get up into 31 to 45 seconds, there's some awareness that the briefing is ongoing. Mind begins to drift. No information is retained. 46 seconds until the brief is complete, fully incapacitated. A couple of notes. If at any point a NOTAM regarding a crane or tower is mentioned, the non-briefing pilot will immediately advance to full incapacitation state. And to assist a crew member who is incapacitated, the phrases brief complete or any questions may be used at any time.
Well, it is so. It's obviously tongue in cheek, but it's basically stating something that's very true. I mean, you want your briefs to be brief, yeah, but you want to include all the appropriate, important information, and significant and whatever information. But yeah, I've been through some of these that you're going like, okay, like you don't need to tell me about every word that's on this approach plate. I know how to read. I know how to, just tell me the pertinent information.
What was the Shakespeare quote? Brevity is the soul of wit. I think that's
very cool. Tim W. says this should be in the fundamentals of instruction. Yes, it should, Tim W. Yeah. Honestly, I didn't actually read and look at this table of useful consciousness. I thought it was actually a real table of useful consciousness. And then I went, oh, wait, look at this.
This is good.
This is good.
This is good.
Yeah. If at any point a NOTAM regarding a crane or a tower is mentioned, the non-briefing pilot will immediately advance to full incapacity. I love that. That's great.
425 feet from the field.
Sometimes, I don't know if you ever see these, but you'll get a Jeppesen page, and I'm thinking, did they really mean to put this in here? Because it's like sentence after sentence or paragraph after paragraph of all the trees and the heights of trees all along the perimeter of the airport.
Probably an airport that's in like a wooded area as well.
But
So
I mean,
it's
a lot of them are in wooded areas.
I know.
And I'm
That's
only
what- that's
like
my
a
point.
handful of them I've seen, and I'm looking at this going, "You have got to be kidding me!"
It's
Does
some airport manager who's just gone way overboard on the CYA liability stuff.
There's no way you could absorb any of that information. It's just like, yeah.
It's like when you say a word or think about a word too many times in a row and it loses all meaning.
Yeah, and they go, "That's really
Is
a
that- is that
weird
a-
word."
that's a
How-
weird word.
Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah. Is that really a
It doesn't
word?
even look like a real word anymore.
Are those real trees? I'm not even sure anymore.
What shall we go to next, Liz? Okay. This from George regarding the LATAM 787. He was just listening to 611 regarding the sudden nosedive and subsequent injuries sustained by 12 of the passengers. I find it really hard to believe that they're trying to blame a rocker switch that induced the seat to move forward. Anybody that knows anything about these seats knows exactly how slow the seats move forward and back. Unless the pilot involved was slow in thought and slow in movement, he'd have ample time to get out of the seat or at least hit the power off button. I'm sure that all 787 pilots know exactly where it's located and it's in easy reach. I'm afraid they're going to have to come up with a more plausible excuse than the poor attempt they've come up with, because anybody that knows anything at all about the 787 seats knows that just ain't going to wash. Kind regards from George. Yeah, I thought the same thing, George. I think because if the thing had activated and was just stuck in the on position and the thing was continuously moving, unless you're just completely frozen and in shock, you would know, oh, okay, I'm going to have to do something here to prevent, this pushing my body up against the yoke and making something bad happen.
What is happening? I don't
Well, I
want
don't
make it
understand.
stop. I don't want this.
Make it stop. Oh yeah, like when you're trying to run in your dream and you can't get your legs to move. And then you find out it's because all the covers have been like keeping your legs from moving.
I don't know anything about a 787 seat, but it sounds like maybe they're
Well,
not
I don't
the...
either, but it doesn't hold water.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. I agree with you, George. Thank you. He was just saying what a lot of us have been thinking, I think. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Why don't we just go ahead and 19 and call it a day? Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's do it. All right. So we're going to end the show with this piece of feedback that came in from Kevin. And the title of his feedback is Last Flight. And he just sends us this link to an article, and it's also has a YouTube video associated with it. And let's see. So I'll read a little bit of the article, and then I'll play the video. After working our whole lives, most of us look forward to retiring and having a chance to take it easy. However, for those who love their career, there is also a pang of sadness. That must have been the case for United Airlines pilot Captain Ronald Smith when he commenced his last flight in 2017. Oh, I didn't realize it was that long ago. Captain Smith took control in the cockpit for the final time as he flew from Chicago to Brussels, marking the end of his 32-year career. This last flight would always have been memorable, but a group of young travelers made it an experience you'll never forget. They were members of a choir from a school in Luxembourg, the
Lycée des Garçons de... I don't know how to pronounce that. That's Luxembourgish, I think. Desch-sur-Alzette. Lycée des Garçons de...
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Sur Alzette. Okay.
That's exactly the... Oh, wait, hang on.
Got the first part pretty close, I think.
Here we go.
Lycée is high school. Garçon is boys. Yeah.
There we go. As word about Captain Smith's retirement spread through the plane, the choir decided they couldn't let this day go without a celebration. They hatched a plan. Once the plane landed, the students waited for everyone else to leave the plane and for Captain Smith's appearance from the cockpit. Once he did appear, they started to sing. They chose the song Viva la Vida by Coldplay, and one of the students, Nicholas, recorded their beautiful a cappella performance. The sound of their voices filling the cabin of the plane is one of the most wonderful things you'll ever hear. Ronald's delight was obvious, and when the song ended, he told the students, "Get out of here." Yeah, get off my plane. I have a layover to go to. No, he said, he told the students how much it meant to him. Wow, thank you so much. That was amazing. Another choir performance on a plane saw this choir sing thank you to the airline staff. Watching the video below. Oh, I didn't download that video. After Nicholas uploaded the video, Lindsay, Ronald's daughter, left a comment giving her sincere thanks to the choir and the gift they gave to her father. She also praised their perfect choice of song. You have no way of knowing this, but Coldplay is one of his favorite bands, so you couldn't have chosen a better song. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and find this piece of feedback, which is way down. Oh, did I ever load that up? Maybe I did. Here we go.
The world seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone. Sweep the streets I used to own. I used to
Feel the fear in my enemy's eyes. Listen as the crowd will sing. Now the old king is dead, long live the king. 1 minute.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there.
Mhm.
And we'll have the link to the entire video in our show notes. It was nice. I looked at I didn't know what the lyrics were here, and I'm thinking, this is kind of sad, actually. I used to rule the world, seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone, sweep the streets I used to own. Oh gosh. This guy almost tried to commit suicide after he heard this song, I think. I used to roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes, listened as the crowd would sing. Now the old king is dead, long live the king. One minute I held the key, next the walls were closed on me, and I discovered that my castles stand upon pillars of salt and pillars of sand. It's like, it would make me cry, and not happiness. That's a very, yeah, I cry. Yeah. Do you hear that little audio kind of making, or maybe it's just the Unity comm that
I actually think it's probably my refrigerator that just kicked on.
No, it's like a crackling sound, not a.
I don't hear it.
That's good. I think it's in Unity, but that's okay because nobody else can hear it, and I can take it out and post. So, just kind of curious. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up now. So thanks everybody for sending us feedback, and the first thing we'll do is tell you about our wonderful website that is nice and fresh and secure. It's airlinepilotguy.com. That's HTTPS for secure, / airlinepilotguy.com. And there you'll find information about the crew, outdated information about the crew and the community, and community calendar. And we have a library for those of you who know how to read. Tiffany actually manages that. And I don't know, maybe some of those books have pictures. I could probably do that. And what else? We have merchandise, and we have our YouTube channel there. More information about the Plain Tales, ways that you can contact us, our personal contact information, and probably some more as well. So check out airlinepilotguy.com. Also, if you are someone out there in the North American continent, and you have a place for me to park my road vessel that I'm hopefully going to be picking up in about, under a week, I hope. You can sign up to be one of my mooch docking hosts. And by sending an email with your appropriate information about what you have for me to use, and contact information and where you are, probably is the most important part. And you can send it to rv@airlinepilotguy.com, R Romeo Victor @airlinepilotguy.com, or roadvessel.com. And let's see, what else do we say? Oh, well, we're on social media. Can you believe it?
I think I can. I talk about it every week. So hopefully we're really there.
Check
You
it
can
out
find us
sometime.
on Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. You can head over to X, we're at APG Crew, and find our individual handles pinned to the top of that page. Also, Captain Nick's show artwork. I know he talks about it here, but if you want to check it out in advance, it's APG Crew on Instagram. And for those of you who like your podcasts in video format, feel free to head to youtube.com/airlinepilotguy. And what else can I say other than to maybe see if Hillel is hanging around to tell us about Slack?
I hear the water. Hello? Hello? Can you tell us about Slack?
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
That's okay. We're used to it. Come on over here, sit down, and tell us about it.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and Plain Tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com. Or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks a lot, Hillel.
Jeff, which washcloth is mine? I really wish you would stop moving them.
It's the pink one. All right. Oh, Hillel's such a great guy.
I'm so excited to see how that smaller space inside the road vessel is going to work out for the two of you.
It's going to be tight.
It's going to be real tight.
Going to get to know him even better.
But he's a very, very good friend, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's always welcome in the road vessel. Oh boy. And oh, look who is here. It's our wonderful producer. Shouting all kinds of direction at us behind the scene. Actually, she doesn't shout. She says it very kindly and does a lot of work before the show and after the show, mostly before the show and during the show. So thank you, Liz. We love you so much.
Thanks,
thank you for all the
Liz.
work that you do.
My pleasure.
And let's see, Steph, thanks for being on the show with me today.
Battling through the storm.
Yeah, glad I made it. Glad my power was on.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, there were lots of traffic lights out. It was pretty nasty.
Yeah, I'm
So,
glad you made it through
yeah,
it. And
hopefully
it wasn't
everyone's
anything
okay.
nasty.
Neil says, what happens on the road stays on the road between you and Hillel. They don't want to know.
It's like Vegas, that road vessel.
Yeah. I'm not going to read that, Tim Van Ram. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of you in the live chat. We do appreciate your presence and your what's the word?
Participation.
Participation.
Your continued support.
Comedic genius.
Yes.
Yeah.
That too.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. And with that, we're going to go ahead. Oh, as far as next week live recording, not sure yet. We're going to have to play it by ear.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty busy too.
So. Yeah, you're busy with entertaining Nick's lovely wife Jilly,
Mrs.
and
Anderson,
I'm going to be
correct.
likely down in Florida, hopefully driving my new road vessel, and I'll bring some minimal equipment with me to do a show if that's. It might be interesting because that's
Gotta start somewhere somehow.
The future is going to be all the time in that darn thing.
The road vessel, yeah.
But I'll
Road
take
vessel
a
podcasting.
minimum amount that we can actually do a show, and if necessary, and
I'll do what I can.
If you're a patron, look forward to getting a bunch of crew logs to kind of journal my adventure, and that's about all I can think of. And with that, we're going to wish you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Or was Mila always say?
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Who?
Mila?
Mila.
Yeah, I said Mila. And I thought, did I say that wrong? Bye. That's it. Bye.
That was Patty Duke, too, I think.
Patty Duke said that?
I think so. Bye.
Ah.
Turn off
The
your recorder,
journey
Jeff.
is its own reward. You're talking about the podcast that Brian and Micah do, right?
Yeah, right. No,
Okay.
Corey
No,
says he wants to know if they've got an award for participating in the chat room.
Absolutely not. No, yeah.
I said our unending appreciation.
That's
a good reward, I think.
That is
solid.
Very much so.
a great reward.
You turn your recorder off, Jeff?
My recorder is off.
Okay, so here's what I have to give to Nick for titles.
Oh,
Road Vessel, which I think is funny for some reason or other.
I do too. I don't know why.
Micah had a bunch about the cowlings, latchkey cowlings, growling cowlings, airplane or cowling ripoffs. I don't know. I thought this was funny too when somebody said Viagra Falls. Jill and I were going, yes, that was good. That was a good one, Jeff.
Thanks.
And then
Well, there's a lot of, for those who don't know, there was a lot of laughing happening in the background about Nick talking about the Volvo and the lost supercharger or turbocharger. No, not supercharger, turbocharger and all that. Oh my gosh.
I have the comment that Sam Dawson said about inspecting my tail,
Oh yeah.
which could be a good one.
Trail was inspecting my tail.
This one's too long, but I loved it. Tedium to boredom with a side trip to monotony. That's APG.
Can't
Who said
sleep.
that? Who came up?
Oh,
with
it was
that?
in a feedback. It was in the same feedback as
Sam's.
the Sam's feedback. Yeah.
Oh,
And then also in this is in relation to the other spoofing one. Does anybody really know what time it is? You know that song? Does anybody really know what time it is?
The spoofing.
Yeah.
Does anybody really know what day? Oh, Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. Anyway, that's all I got. But I
That's
for
a
some
lot.
reason, I love
That's a
Road
lot.
Vessel. I
think Road Vessel wins. I think we need to strongly suggest that
Okay.
maybe just only submit Road Vessel.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Very impressive.
All righty. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see
I hate
you
to
when
toot
we
my
see
own
you.
horn, but I will.
Again, whatever happens in the Road Vessel stays in the Road
Well, back up here,
Okay.
Tim Van Ram was saying he was working on his. He's on the roof of his RV working on his air horn. Does he have an air horn on his RV?
Well, he does now.
I
He does now.
I guess he does. Do you have a compressed air system? You have like air ride and air brakes on that thing? Maybe he does.
Maybe he's
That'd
gone.
be cool to have an air horn.
Yeah. Pop. Hi, sweetie.
I
All
don't
right,
think
everybody.
my rig's not big enough to have one of those, Tim.
Listen, when you pass the kids in their lemonade stands in the neighborhood, it'd be a cool trick.
Oh,
Tim
look
says
at
he
that!
has
110 psi.
PSI.
He's got air, compressed air on that thing.
There you go. Wow.
Oh man, the only compressed air I'm going to have is in the tires.
Jeff's got PSI envy.
And yeah, and
Delta P
wait.
envy.
So
Delta P
110 psi.
Wow. That's a lot.
Very impressive.
It is. But I'm going to get one of those smaller, like air compressors. Via Air, I think. Via Air is a company that is
Okay.
well
Not
known for
Viagra
that.
Air. Okay.
Not Viagra Air. That's completely different. That's what you use.
get that in
before
your
you go to
Viagra
the
Falls. Yes.
Viagra Falls. Thanks,
You're
everybody.
never too small to get the horn. Well, that's what I've always said, Neil.
And on that note, we'll say good night.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Bye.
Good night.